Good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and let me do the math here. If I add a 4, carry the 3, and divide by the sine and the cosine, and X, the unknown factor. 2 days, 2 shopping days left till Christmas.
Is that all?
That's it.
Uh-oh.
I got to get right. I'm going to get right on it. I promise you I will. And by the way, interestingly enough, and I think this is interesting, 24 days now until the voting takes place in Iowa. I mean, we're right upon the beginning of the 2024 election season. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. There's actually a lot of news. And as I mentioned during my crosstalk with Cameron Smith a minute ago, this is a day where it's not unheard of for things to be dropped into the hopper at about 5 o'clock Eastern time. So that'd be about an hour from now, Middle Tennessee time. Things tend to happen, either then or right after the network newscasts on the East Coast. And because, there's things that happen that government needs to tell you, people within government need to tell you sometimes, or there's some development out there that is sort of looming, and they know that it's not going to be received well by some. So the media people who work in government, they choose 5 o'clock on a Friday before a big holiday to release information. And so, this being the end of the year, and given the fact that people are going to be going, after they get home today, it's a straight shot to Monday and Christmas, and then a lot of people will even be off after that. I mean, those lazy slackers who take the week off after Christmas, those people. But anyway, I am prepared for there to be major developments today. We sort of got one today, a little earlier, and it came from the Supreme Court. You may have heard the Supreme Court has sidestepped making any decision on whether or not former President Trump has presidential immunity for the things that happened when he was president. It's all part of this federal election interference case being brought by Jack Smith. Now, former president, is claiming broad immunity for things that happened in office, including efforts to, as some have suggested, to overturn the 2020 presidential election. And that's the whole Jack Smith case. But the question is a fair one. He was president of the United States, and there are some who believe that as president, you have a particular immunity for the things that happen when you are president. And that I don't think has really been tested in this way. So Jack Smith said, well, before I start this trial in March, there's no sense going through all of this trial process if indeed the question about immunity is unanswered. We'll have to stop in the middle of the trial and send that question all the way up to the high court probably. So he asked for the high court to do an expedited review of that question. And the high court today said, nope, we're not going to do that. It means that the question will then go through the regular order. He has to go back down to the D.C. Appeals Court. It's probably a pretty favorable court for Jack Smith, but nonetheless. And then after that, if Donald Trump doesn't like the decision, or maybe if Jack Smith doesn't like the decision, depending on how it goes, then they would have to go to the Supreme Court. The bottom line here is, it doesn't sound like to me that this trial is going to start in March as they thought, because this whole process about this question, we now learn today, is going to take a while. Here is a legal expert, constitutional expert, Jonathan Turley, who was asked about, what this really means. He thinks it means it stretches it out perhaps beyond the election.
Everything has been frozen since the court looked at this question. So he may indeed lose that March date, and then it's a real problem. You go right over a cliff because this is a very jammed calendar. So it's not clear if he could fit a trial between that date and the election. The D.C. Circuit was always a good court for Jack Smith. He cannot do better than the D.C. Circuit to hear this case. It's the problem for Jack Smith is that he knows that whatever the D.C. Circuit decides, there's likely to be an appeal. So he was willing to give up what many people assumed would be a favorable decision in order to maximize a favorable calendar. Now, what happens now is not going to work as planned for Jack Smith. Once they hear this case in January, they have to write the opinion. They'll do that as quickly as possible. But then Trump's people can do what's called an appeal in bank, which is to ask the court as a whole to look at this question before they appeal to the Supreme Court. That will take time. And then if the in bank accepts the case, then he'll never see a March trial. But then at that point, the Trump people can apply to the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of runway now between him and that March date that he's got to be able to cross. And the odds are he's not going to be able to stick the landing. He's going to lose that March date.
Yeah. So when will it actually go? And by the way, if Trump prevails in the high court, ultimately when it gets there, well then Jack Smith doesn't have a case at all. So that's going to be very interesting, and that's the real development here today, is that the March trial is not going to take place, and that was a very narrow window for a trial. They wanted to ostensibly try to finish up anything before we got to Super Tuesday. But you know what? I read the other day that Trump's people believe that Trump will actually clinch the nomination in March if everything goes the way he thinks it will. Now, there's some new developments in that regard, and we'll get into that when we talk about the 2024 election and a new poll that's out. But one way or the other, it looks as if Trump will be, if not March, pretty soon after that, if things go the way they look they're going to go right now. He's way ahead of everybody except Nikki Haley in New Hampshire. And there it's when actually Haley's within striking distance. More on that to come. So again, it would go to the D.C. Appeals Court. That's the first appellate court. And that would be a 3-judge panel. And then they would say, well, if you don't like that, you can then appeal to the entire appeals court en banc, which I think is 7 justices. And then they'll make a decision. And then again, if you don't like that decision, you go to the Supreme Court and you appeal there. Well, all of that, you know how these lawyers work and how this thing happens. It stretches out the timeline. So, when could, even if Jack Smith gets favorable rulings from all these courts, it's going to take time. And then at what point does he still have a case? Can he still try a case while, we have a candidate who has, clinched the nomination? Could it happen around the conventions? I don't think so. I think it would push well beyond that. So anyway, that's a big deal right there. This has nothing to do with the other question that the Supreme Court is being asked to consider. And that is the issue of whether or not the 14th Amendment prevents the president from being a candidate because of the insurrection clause. Now, I'm relatively certain that the high court is going to reject that argument because it is such a weak decision by the Colorado Supreme Court. And just about everybody looks at it. I mean, even Democrats are looking at it and said, well, that's not going to hold up. Don't put your eggs in that basket. If you don't like Donald Trump, that's not going to be the thing that knocks him out. Here's another version of the story from I think it's Fox 17's website. Former President Donald Trump appears to have gotten an early Christmas present from the Supreme Court. The High Court on Friday denied for now Jack Smith's request to immediately take up a plea to rule on whether Trump can be prosecuted for his actions to overturn the 2020 election. The case presents a fundamental question at the heart of our democracy, whether a former president is absolutely immune from federal prosecutions for crimes committed while in office, or he is constitutionally protected from federal prosecution when he has been impeached but not convicted before the criminal proceedings begin. That was what Smith was arguing, and that's the question he wants answered by the higher courts. The document noted that it is of imperative public importance that the respondent's claim of immunity be resolved by this court and that respondent's trial proceed as promptly as possible if his claim of immunity is rejected. The issue will now be decided by the Court of Appeals, District of Columbia Circuit, which has signaled it will act quickly. Special counsel Jack Smith had cautioned that even a rapid appellate decision might not get to the Supreme Court in time for review and final word before the court's traditional summer break. Oh, that's right. They take off. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. We know that there's this question of great importance, but the high court has got to go to summer in Vermont. So it's interesting. By the way, speaking of that other Supreme Court question about the Colorado Supreme Court's order that says that Trump can't be on the ballot in Colorado because of the 14th Amendment, this is never going to hold up. But anyway, a former U.S. Supreme Court law clerk claimed Wednesday that the high court will likely rule against the Colorado Supreme Court decision to bar former President Donald Trump from appearing on the state's 2024 ballot. As you know, the Colorado High Court ruled, according to the Epic Times here, that the former president is disqualified from being on the ballot in a state because of his role in the January 6, whatever happened to alleged role? Alleged role in the January 6, 2021 Capitol breach. The 4-3 ruling, which is based on a reading of provisions of the Constitution's 14th Amendment, is likely to be taken up by the Supreme Court, some analysts have noted. This, by the way, right now the ruling applies only to Colorado, and it's not a state that Trump was likely to win anyway. It's not important to Trump in his electoral college math, but it's a safe Democrat state, so it doesn't really matter. But if somehow the high court, and I just can't see this happening, I'm just telling you, it doesn't seem likely. But if the high court were to rule that the Colorado Supreme Court got it right, it would be a real problem because other states would then start to file similar lawsuits. This is coming from Chris Landau, former law clerk for the U.S. Supreme Court, Justice Clarence Thomas, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. He said the Colorado ruling is lawfare and was one of the most anti-democratic decisions we've seen in American history, that 4 unelected judges on a state Supreme Court have taken it upon themselves to disqualify someone who otherwise meets all the qualifications of the Constitution. Anti-democratic because basically a court has said you can't vote for the person who's leading in all the polls right now. That's not going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to happen at all. You'll be hearing some more about this probably. I don't think it means anything, but I mean, those people who hate Trump love this story. Donald Trump pressured 2 election officials not to certify the 2020 vote totals in a key Michigan county, according to a recording of a post-election phone call disclosed in a new report by the Detroit News. The former president's 2024 campaign neither confirmed nor denied the recording's legitimacy, insisting that in a statement that all of Trump's actions after his defeat to Democrat Joe Biden were taken to uphold the oath of office and ensure fair elections. I think a good case can be made. There's nothing wrong with asking people to stop and be careful about certifying the vote when you have some doubts about whether or not the election was fair. And in real time, you can't look back on it and say, well, now we know that this wasn't something that he could have legitimately raised. You're doing this in real time when if you have questions that are unresolved. What's wrong with saying, hold on a minute here? Don't certify this until we clear up some stuff to make sure we're doing the right thing. I just don't think that's against the law, and I don't think it's inappropriate. When elections happen, part of the problem is if you think there are problems, you have to be able to prove your case in a very short timetable, and that's the problem. Is that it's hard to do that before elections get certified. So we'll watch it. A lot of Trump news today. Right now, 21 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Supreme Court makes a decision that is rather favorable to former President Trump. Another big auto recall. We'll have the details. And President Biden, he gets a lump of coal in the latest Gallup poll. Those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay Harper, in for Mac Morey today. And it's good to have you in the house there, Jay. Merry Christmas to you and yours. And there's Chris Weber and his festive T-shirt, his holiday T-shirt. It's a Griswold T-shirt, is it not?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Love that. Love that. And, hope you and yours are all, settled in and got all your Christmas shopping done, and the stockings are hung by the chimney with care, and that you are ready to mix and mingle with the jingly beat. I mean, all those things.
Well, I don't know about all that, but
yeah.
I'll do the best I can.
Yeah, I know. It's I did something today that I don't know if I'm going to like this or if I'm going to regret it. I decided that I'm going to put Christmas lights on my pickup truck.
Yeah.
And I've completed the installation.
Okay.
Now the question is, will this hold up to highway speeds? Will the installations remain there, or will it come flying off when I hit 60, 70 miles an hour?
Yeah. That's a good question. Maybe you should just stick to neighborhood streets and whatnot.
Well, no. I mean, I've got places to go here in the next few days, and
gotcha.
so I'm hoping that this is going to hold up. But I'm anxious for I can't really tell much about it in the daylight. I'm anxious to see what it looks like at night.
Did you use duct tape?
There's no duct tape.
Well, you're probably not gonna hold up. Then you may want to throw some duct tape on it.
I used to have a helicopter pilot that I flew a lot with in my early days as a reporter. Really good helicopter pilot, an amazing guy named Donnie Simpson. And Donnie said to me one day, he said, I always carry me some duct tape. He called it 100-mile-an-hour tape. He said, because, you can, like in a plane, he said, you can patch a wing with duct tape and still fly at 100 mile an hour.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd rather not know that.
I'd rather not do that. But he always carried a big roll of duct tape. We never know when duct tape's going to come in.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, so Watertown is looking very festive for the holidays. I'm very excited about holidays here in this little town. It's such a great little town. I just have come to love Watertown so much. By the way, I made the Watertown Express. I'm on the front page.
Oh, that's the newspaper?
That's right. I mean, you talk about, being on the front page of the Rolling Stone. I'm on the front page of the Watertown Express, lady.
Nice.
Well, me and about, 50 of my closest friends. It all has to do with that project that I was working with over at the high school. We took a picture and it ended up, I think it may be even, I think it may have been taken by Cabana Wife. And it ended up in the front page of the Watertown Express.
Is it above the fold?
It's the lead story.
Nice.
Baby. Yeah, I mean, it's above the fold. You can't miss it. And I'm standing right in the middle. So it's really sweet of them to do that.
Yeah.
But I love this little town. They take care of their own. I mean, it's for example, I'll tell you, we have this, this, I've talked about this before. It's Three Forks Marketplace, but it's what I call the gas station, grocery store, deli, because everything in a small town does more than one thing.
Of course.
So it's a grocery store and a gas station and a deli.
Yeah.
And, just like, down at the hardware store, it's a hardware store and Masonic Temple.
I thought you were going to say massage parlor.
No, Masonic Temple. Okay. That's upstairs, apparently. And it's that's the way it is in a small town. But I was talking to Kevin, the guy that runs the place over there, and he says, I'm going to give back to the community. And I think it's pretty cool. It's like next Wednesday, he's gonna get 8,500 gallons of gasoline in a new shipment. 8,500 gallons of gas.
Yeah. He's
going to sell it at cost as sort of a customer appreciation thing. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, so if you're out in Watertown, and you're thinking, should I fill up now? No, it's Wednesday. That's the day you fill up.
Hold your horses, yeah.
Yeah, it's at his cost. He's not going to, whatever it cost him, he said, I'm going to pass that on and just sell that to the customer to say thanks,
That's very nice.
That's very nice. I mean, it's a community that takes, and then I'm going to a Christmas thing on Christmas Eve, I think it is, here in town, one of the churches. And then I'm going to, tomorrow night, Saturday night, I'm going to see the Gatlins over at the Franklin Theater. They're doing their Christmas show.
Yeah. That should be a lot of fun.
Steve and Rudy and Larry are putting on a big show. So we're going to go over there and watch that. So, we got a good. Oh, but the highlight is Christmas Day.
All right.
Korean barbecue.
Really?
There's remember that Korean barbecue place that we did our live remote at over in Hendersonville? They're open on Christmas Day.
Nice.
And so Cabana wife and I have decided our tradition is going to be Korean barbecue on Christmas Day.
Kind of a Christmas story moment.
That's right. Yeah, I know. Isn't that special? Anyway. A lot of stuff going on. Hope you've got stuff going on for your family. And again, from everybody here on the drive and everybody here at Super Talk 99.7 to your family, Merry Christmas and the happiest of New Year's. I will be, by the way, gone next week. Matt Murphy's going to be in this slot. So, would you watch him closely, Chris?
I'll keep an eye on him. But
keep an eye on that guy.
He's tough, man.
He's wild, man.
You gotta keep a close eye.
That's right. Both eyes, at all times, wide open. All right, time for the news with Jay Harper. 31 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Good afternoon. It is 3:31. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got sunshine, 62 degrees still. We'll have a forecast and the traffic report coming up. The Supreme Court has declined a request from prosecutors to expedite review of a key question raised in Donald Trump's January 6 case in Washington. The justices responded to Jack Smith's urgent request with a single sentence denying his petition. The special counsel referenced the speed with which justices took up the Watergate case as he sought to have them skip past appellate review and quickly say whether a former president is immune from prosecution for his acts in office. With the Supreme Court denying his request, the question will first be answered by the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. A hearing is set now for January the 9th. This week, Toyota announced it's recalling over 1 million cars because of an airbag sensor problem, and Honda over 2 million cars for fuel pump failures. Well, Tesla, they've been added to the list of a recall. Here's ABC's Alex Stone.
Tesla's recall includes over 120,000 2021 to 2023 Model S and Model X vehicles because the doors may unlatch and open during a crash. According to government documents, the software in the vehicle sends commands that do not comply with safety standards and can allow doors to unlatch and open in a crash. Tesla is releasing an over-the-air software update to fix the issue.
President Biden will probably be happy to bid 2023 adieu. The 81-year-old commander-in-chief ends this year with a lower approval rating than any of his 7 predecessors at a similar point in their first term. That's according to a new Gallup poll. Biden, the oldest ever president, will head into the new year with just 39% of Americans liking his job performance. He also has actually gone up a little bit from October and November. He had a 37% approval rating at that time, but it's still below the ratings of every chief executive at the end of their third term in office since Jimmy Carter. Biden's low numbers are fueled by 4 in 5 adults rating the nation's economy as fair. That's at 33%. 45% saying the economy is poor. Just 3% said economic conditions were excellent, and 2/3 of those surveyed, 68%, say that they think the economy is getting worse. That is the latest news. Weather and traffic are on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Well, Merry Christmas from your friends over at Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing. They want to wish you the happy holidays. And by the way, if you've got a problem with your heater system this time of year, just give them a call at that number, 775-7833. They'll buzz right over to your house and get you up and running in no time at all. You might want to avoid problems by doing preventative maintenance, and that's what the Beehive Club is all about. Be a member of the Beehive Club. It starts as little as $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, and one aimed at plumbing. Never any overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. You see, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. And for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. It's 39 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk on this 22nd day of December. You got a couple of days left to get your shopping done, but you know that. I don't have to, when you get this close, I don't have to tell you, right?
What if there was that one guy out there that just had no clue until you just said that?
Well, mate, then I just provided a tremendous public service for that individual.
You saved his marriage.
I know. It is, it's Monday, and this is Friday. And, you got to get out there.
You get the weekend. You can get it done. Knock it out.
Yeah. My problem is that the stuff that needs to be mailed is going to be a little late. But that's okay.
Better late than never.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, Christmas Day, if you send people a gift and it gets opened up with all the other gifts, it just sort of gets lost in the shuffle. But if you send it late, then, hey, look here, a surprise. I wasn't expecting this today.
Yeah.
So it's like a second Christmas.
That's true. Yeah. Another good tip for anybody that thought, oh crap, I forgot to mail. It'll be too late. That you can do the digital gift cards nowadays. So you can buy someone a gift card and then it'll just email them the gift card. So you could have it there in time for Christmas if you're in a pinch and you needed to do such a thing.
Huh.
Yeah.
That modern technology, what will they come up with next?
Crazy.
All right, let's do an election update if we could, because again, as I said, we are 24 days to the voting in Iowa, and got some information here. This is not great news for Joe Biden. His approval ratings are, well, maybe slightly better than they were, but I mean, it's still an all-time low among modern presidents. 39% approval, which means 59% disapproval for Joe Biden right now. People don't like what he's doing. They're not picking up what he's putting down, and it shows. And this is, by the way, a Gallup poll, which I believe is sort of the gold standard of polling. Again, they say, well, it's up 2 points. The bad part about that is that Joe Biden will seize upon that. See, we're turning the corner. What I would say yeah, either that or that's within the margin of error. I wouldn't get too excited about a 2-point uptick. But I mean, when you compare where Joe Biden is in his approval ratings compared to other presidents at this point in their first term, he is way behind others. Are you ready? Barack Obama at this point in his first term had a 43% approval rating. Donald Trump had a 45% approval rating. Bill Clinton and George W. Bush both had 51% approval ratings. And Reagan and Carter had 54% approval ratings. Hard to believe that Jimmy Carter had a 54% approval rating after, it seemed like things sort of collapsed on him. But that was all because of the Iranian stuff, probably a lot of it. But one way or the other, this is not good for Joe Biden. The lowest approval ratings for a president, a modern president, since, I guess, polling got serious. So 39% overall approval rating, but you got to look at Democrat. You don't expect that the Republicans are going to approve of it. So I think his approval among Republicans is like 8%. But it's the independents, right? The same poll found Mr. Biden 39% is again an improvement from 37. But it's the fifth time that his number is below 40. His approval rating among independents is up 2, but it's only 34%. It was a record low 27% in November. Within his own party, his approval rating has dipped since the last measure. It was 78% in this poll, 83%. So, I mean, Democrats are the ones who are falling off here. Biden enters 2024 with a persistently low job approval rating, the worst of any modern-day president heading into a tough re-election campaign, Gallup wrote in a statement accompanying the poll. The Gallup poll revealed that Americans feel a little better about the economy, but their confidence remains in negative territory. 68% say the economy is getting worse, compared with 28% who say it is improving. So bad news for the current president of the United States. Now, if I've told you, and it is true, that that Trump leads nationwide for the GOP nomination by, somewhere, it depends on which poll you look at, 30, 40, 50, points. It's ridiculous how far ahead he is of the other. But there's one caveat that I have to tell you about, and it's in New Hampshire. So the first thing we do is we have the Iowa caucuses, then we have the New Hampshire primary. And right now, according to American Research Group, Trump leads Nikki Haley only by 4 points. Now, there are other polls that don't show it that close. Other polls show it, like double digits. But still, it's fair to say, something of a surge going on in New Hampshire for Nikki Haley. So the American Research Group has Trump 33, Haley 29, Christie 13, DeSantis 6. DeSantis is not resonating at all in New Hampshire, and Ramaswamy at 5. Others don't matter. But here's an interesting idea. It's an interesting thought somebody suggested. Who hates Donald Trump with a passion is that Chris Christie. He doesn't like Donald Trump at all. He's got 13% of the vote in New Hampshire, which will probably be the high watermark for Chris Christie. But if he really hates Donald Trump that much and he were to get out of the race, and this poll is correct, probably a fair amount of Chris Christie vote would go to Nikki Haley. And that means that, if something like that happens, then it would be possible, I suppose, for Nikki Haley to win if this poll is right. Now, again, I want to mention there are other polls out there that have it, a much bigger margin. But there's no doubt that Nikki Haley is surging somewhat in New Hampshire. All the polls suggest, she's got something going on there, some momentum. And we still have some time left before we get to the New Hampshire primary. And remember, things can change a lot in the last few days. So I'm just wondering if for example, Chris Christie or, maybe Ramaswamy, I don't know, maybe DeSantis. I don't see DeSantis getting out. But I could see Chris Christie realizing that this is my high water mark, but he so hates Donald Trump that he could be the kingmaker in New Hampshire at least. I don't know, if you were to win, if Trump were to win Iowa, and he's going to win Iowa for the Republican nomination, he's going to win it. Probably win the state in the general election as well by about 8 points. But okay, so Trump wins Iowa, and if somehow Nikki Haley wins New Hampshire, and I'm not saying it's there yet, but I'm saying something's going on there and something to watch as we go closer and closer. Well, then that would be interesting, right? That would maybe recast the Republican nomination. Now, again, nationwide, when you look at Trump's numbers, he's really strong. In all the polls, he's well ahead of the others. But I just want to point out that this New Hampshire thing is something to watch. I don't know what's going to happen, but my expectation, if you twisted my arm and say what's going to happen, Trump wins Iowa, squeaks one out in New Hampshire, then goes on to do well in South Carolina, Nevada, and as I say, his people believe that he will clinch the nomination by March, long before we get to Super Tuesday, before we get to vote. Much has been written and said about the decision out of the Colorado Supreme Court. PJ Media has an interesting article. What you should know about the 4 justices who deemed that Trump was ineligible to run for president in that state. I'm going to read from some of this. Earlier this week, the Colorado State Supreme Court determined in a 4-3 ruling Trump is ineligible under the 14th Amendment to appear on the ballot in the state. This nonsensical ruling essentially declares that even though Trump, who's never been convicted of, much less tried with sedition or participating in an insurrection, he is nevertheless guilty of such. That's basically what the court said. The ruling is bound to be taken up by the Supreme Court, and experts on both sides of the aisle believe it will be promptly overturned. But that doesn't change the fact that the 4 justices in the highest court of the state of Colorado voted so egregiously. But here's something that might explain why. The obvious thing is that the justices who sided against Trump were all appointed by Democrats, but even that doesn't fully explain everything because all 7 of the justices were Democrat appointed. But there is something that separates the 4 justices who voted to ban Trump from the ballot and the 3 who didn't. 3 of the 4 justices who voted against Trump were Ivy League graduates. The 4 Democrat-appointed justices who ruled to nix Trump from the primary ballot included 3 Ivy League graduates, showing a stark divide between the legal mindset of those who were educated at elite institutions compared to the 3 justices who said they would not remove the Republican frontrunner from the state's ballot, according to the Washington Examiner. As for the justice who voted to boot Trump from the ballot, Justice Monica Marquez not only got her law degree from Yale, but is the first Latina and openly LGBTQ justice to serve on the court. She worked as an assistant solicitor general and as an assistant attorney general in both the public officials unit and criminal appellate section before she was appointed to the state's high court in 2010. She's also a member of the Bench Dream Team, which is a group of judges in the Colorado judicial system that promotes diversity and inclusion. Justice Richard Gabriel holds a bachelor's degree in American Studies from Yale University and a law degree from the University of Pennsylvania. His legal career primarily in commercial and intellectual property law. Judge Melissa Hart pursued her undergraduate studies at Harvard, Radcliffe, and later returned to Harvard for her law degree, appointed to the High Court in 2017. She works as an adjunct professor at the University of Colorado Law School. The only member of the majority that voted to disqualify Trump from the ballot was Justice William W. Hood III. Hood may not be Ivy League. He was donated more than $5,000 to Democrat candidates and organizations. All the justices in the majority have donated to Democrats or appear to be left-wing activists, according to FEC records. Tells you a lot, doesn't it? That thing's not going to stand up to judicial scrutiny, I promise you. It is now 51 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund and you don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that, is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
The UN Security Council adopting a Gaza resolution, but many are not satisfied. With colder weather, more respiratory illnesses are being reported, and an earlier threat today to a Nashville school has been deemed a hoax. Those stories and more coming up at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 56 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We're in the throes of our last big holiday show before Christmas. And wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. U.S. homelessness has gone up this year. The number of homeless people in the U.S. soared to 653,000 people early in this year, the highest number ever on record since they started following this number. I think they started doing it in 2007. Experts estimating that it's likely even an undercount. It's hard to know with homeless people. It's hard to track them down. They don't have addresses. It's a really serious problem. The data showed a 12% spike over 2022, the largest increase since the U.S. began publishing the comparable data. Now, what is causing it? Well, the contributing factors were the drug crisis, fentanyl, and other drugs, the surge in illegal immigrants, rising housing cost. It's expensive to have a house, to rent or to own, and expiring COVID aid. I noticed the other day I was down at the Walmart. I saw not one but two people who were clearly, at Walmart you can park your car overnight. If you need to pull over somewhere because you're tired, or if you have a motor home or something like that, you could always pull into a Walmart parking lot. And I noticed that I saw two cars where people were clearly living out of their cars. That was in Mount Juliet. It's really sad. It really is sad. All right, let's take a look at the markets. Dow Jones Industrials down about 18 points today. The S&P up 7. The NASDAQ up 29. So what's driving the market today? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon to you, John.
Good afternoon, Brian. Merry Christmas to you and everyone listening. Yeah, the market today pretty flat and actually got some really good news. The big news everybody's been waiting on this week is the Fed's favorite inflation reading, the Personal Consumption Price Index. That came in at 3.2% against an expectation of 3.3. The market liked that initially and then kind of finished flat. But, inflation, it continues to move closer to the Fed's goal of 2%. Still got a little bit of room to go, but this is going to add a lot of fuel to the fire about a dovish pivot in the Fed and a lot of hopes and probably belief that we're going to see rates begin to get cut in the first quarter or second quarter of next year. So a great inflation report. We'll see what next week brings at the end of the year.
All right. Well, happy New Year and Merry Christmas to you and yours, John. We appreciate everything you do for us on this program each year.
You as well, Brian.
All right. It is now 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. A lot of the diagnoses out there, and you can get a pill for just about anything, but not all diagnoses are accurate and not all pills are actually good for you. When you get a diagnosis for European auto repair, it's probably a good idea to get a second opinion before you make a major decision. And Eurofix is the home for second opinions. Before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair from a diagnosis, go to Eurofix. It could not only save your vehicle's life, but could actually save you from a lot of stress that ruins your weekend. Life's too short to get stressed out and be angry. So, be happy and go to Eurofix. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. At Eurofix, you never pay dealer prices. They have locations in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now their newest facility in Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Good afternoon. It is 4:01. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We still have some sun and 60 degrees here in Nashville. A traffic report and a weather forecast are upcoming. The UN Security Council today adopting a resolution calling for urgent steps to allow safe, unhindered, and expanded humanitarian access throughout Gaza. But some critics are calling it watered down. It passed without the original call for an urgent suspension of hostilities.
The UN resolution's focus is on the urgency to get that desperately needed humanitarian aid to Palestinians through the entire Gaza Strip. The UN has been clear that they need a ceasefire to be able to deliver aid in any kind of meaningful way that is nowhere is safe in Gaza due to Israel's bombardment there. But now this resolution, it falls far short of that. You know, the original draft called for a sustainable end to hostilities, but the final version has been watered down.
That is Britt Clinette reporting. Well, it may seem like everybody's coughing and sneezing this time of year. ABC News medical contributor and pediatrician Dr. Alok Patel has advice on how to avoid those winter illnesses over the holiday season.
Prevention is everything. So people in your household, especially those who are high risk, make sure that they are vaccinated. RSV, COVID, influenza, we have vaccines for all three. Testing also still works to make sure that you are negative for COVID before you go to a destination.
A shooting on Briley Parkway today led to the detainment of a man accused of firing shots. However, after further investigation, that man was being shot at on the roadway. That according to Metro Police. Police said that while initial witness reports were well-intentioned, it was later determined that the man driving the gold Toyota Camry, he's the victim in the shooting. He told police he got into an argument with a guy who started firing shots at him from another vehicle as they were rolling down Briley Parkway. No one was struck or injured in the incident at this time, though. No one is in custody or charged in that shooting. And finally, police are continuing to investigate a phone threat at Hume Fogg High School on Broadway in Nashville. A spokesperson for Metro Police tells Channel 17 News that the threat appears to be a hoax and, quote, did not originate from the school, unquote. Authorities did confirm that a phone threat was made to the magnet school around lunchtime today. Though the school is on winter break, 6 children and a teacher, they were reportedly evacuated from the school. The school says the students were there for wrestling practice. That is the latest news. We have traffic and weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, in the chair until about, 7 o'clock tonight. As this is our last show of 2023. The next time that I'll be here after today will be in the new year. So we're in a festive holiday mood. But this next story is rather serious because, following probably the big story of this year was the Covenant shooting and the great concern about what happened there. I mean, actually a lot of things went right, but of course a lot of things did not go perfectly because we had people who lost their lives in that event, and it's been very much the conversation and on the thoughts of many. Senator Mark Pody here of Tennessee, senator, state senator, has come up with a plan that he thinks might help in a situation where we have a problem, not only with, if we have another, God forbid, another shooting like that, but also just, problems in the classroom. There are many increased numbers of reports of teachers being assaulted and behavioral problems in the classroom. And he's come up with what I think is an interesting plan, and he joins us now on the Newsmaker Hotline to talk about that. Senator Pody, thanks for joining us here on Super Talk. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, Brian. It's an honor to be here, and Merry Christmas to you as well, buddy.
Merry Christmas. Okay, so you're concerned about what happened at Covenant, but you're also concerned about these continual problems that seem to be cropping up in the classroom in some places, behavioral problems with students and teachers getting assaulted, and you've come up with what I think is a technological, brilliant idea that could help, in situations like that. Talk a little bit about your proposal and what will happen, hopefully, when the state legislature takes this up next year.
Absolutely. And this is not something just because of the Covenant shooting. We have actually started working on this beforehand, and it was focused on supporting our teachers and helping protect our teachers. So we were trying to come up with a way that we could help our teachers with behavioral problems in the classroom and discipline problems. And if a teacher is just focused on one or two students, they can't spend their time teaching. And sometimes the administration wasn't responding to remove that student or so forth, or when they were talking with the parents, the parents would end up saying, that wasn't my child, or my child wouldn't do that. So we started with the program of how can we support our teachers with this. And during this investigation, what we were doing, the Covenant shooting came, and we thought as long as we were going to do something that way, what could we do to be a lot more comprehensive to get a better program for teachers in general, students in general, and school safety. So we came up with this program that the technology is out there, but it wasn't in a form that it could all be combined into something that would work. And if we were to look at the lanyards, that's what the teachers have on their necks with their ID. It's got their name on it, the picture, what classroom, what school, and so forth. And we wanted to put 3 buttons on that lanyard. And the first button was going to be in an incident where there might be a child and that child is acting up or some behavioral issues, and the teacher would hit a button and it would instantly go to the SRO officer, that's the officer in the school, as well as the principal. And that way there's people that could come and be of assistance to that teacher. And it also give proof because it would now be recording what's going on with that student. So
now,
they would
let me stop you there. When you say recorded, is that just audio or will it also be video?
It'll be video. And if you remember something like the Ring doorbell, where you can actually see and interact with what's going on,
right,
that's what it'll be. So it'll be being recorded, audio and video, so everybody will know as far as the principal and the teacher of what's happening. It's not public. It's just for that principal and the teacher to have it to review later on. But if the teacher needed help.
Before you go any further, I think that's brilliant because, I mean, what you often have teachers saying is, this happened, and it's your word against the student's word. But with this, you will have not only video evidence, but you'll also have 2 witnesses instantly to what happened.
That's exactly right. And I think that's going to give our teachers a lot more support because there are laws that say if a child acts up, here's what's supposed to happen to that child if they go to another alternative school or whatever, but it's going to be proved that if there's a disciplinary action, those parents will know it, and it's clear, and the right steps will go on. We're supporting our teachers here.
All
And
right, so
Brian, I want to tell you,
tell me about the second button.
all right, so the second button is going to go directly to the SRO officer as well as the principal and 911. So if there's a medical emergency or there's a fire and you've got to reach out to 911, nobody has to go find the fire alarm. Nobody has to go find their phone. They hit that button and it's instantly going to 911. And there again, if it's going to be dispatched, they'll know. They can talk to the teacher if it's medical or fire, but they're instantly notified that we have an emergency on. The principal knows, the SRO officer knows, and the school nurse would know at the same time.
Well, that's remarkable. Okay, now we hope we never have to hit the third button, but there is a third button.
Yes. Now, the third button is going to go directly to law enforcement at the same time, so it'll hit everybody else, but law enforcement. And if you're in law enforcement and you can see exactly what's going on in that classroom, and you can identify that's the shooter, that's the type of gun, that's what that shooter looks like, that's what they're wearing, and it's real-time information. The law enforcement will just see exactly what's going on. It's also going to have a GPS on that lanyard, and that GPS is going to say to the policeman and law enforcement, is it in the cafeteria? Is it in the classroom? Is it in the recess? Wherever they are in school grounds, the law enforcement will know exactly what they're dealing with at real time. It's just like their Ring doorbell, real-time information going to law enforcement.
Well, I think this is a marvelous thing. So, I mean, does this technology exist right now? It's on the shelf, ready to be purchased, or does it still need to be developed?
No, it is developed. It is purchased. In fact, there's some schools in Florida, and it was based on the ELISA law, and that they have something similar to this now. And there's other states going along with this. New York just passed something, as did Florida. So we're not the first state doing it. Now, we're the first one that's having it, as many things on this device as possible. And it's also totally optional for a teacher. If a teacher doesn't want to hit the button, there's nothing recorded. There's nothing going on that the teacher doesn't want. The teacher's in full control. If they want to hit the button 1, 2, or 3, it's totally up to them.
Wow, this is an interesting thing. Now, are there any concerns about privacy? I mean, couldn't imagine that there would be, but I mean, have they had to deal with any of that in places where something like this has been tried?
They haven't yet, and if we were going to be recording all the time or recording without anybody knowing it, there could be some privacy issues. But we're doing it when there is the teacher in that position saying, I am declaring I need help of some sort right now. So they're calling out for help, and they're calling with the right button to get the right people coming immediately to help and support them. So we don't think that that's any kind of issue whatsoever, and we haven't heard any pushback on it. In fact, Brian, there's nobody that's been against this kind of legislation at this point. We've met with the governor's office, and they were it's going to be coming through the school funding grant budget. And we believe that's going to be renewed, and the teachers are actually school systems will be able to apply for it from there.
So some state money will be available for grants. Is this a pretty expensive system? It would seem like all that technology might be pretty expensive.
And if you look at there's something called like Life Alert where it says "Help, I've fallen," and you hit a button.
I've
a lot of
fallen
those
and I
are available.
can't get up. Right, I got you, huh?
All right. And they're like $12 a month, okay? Well, this is going to be less than $25 a month, and it does everything. So to put that on the net of a teacher, so they have that at less than $25 a month, I think that's an incredible value to help our safety, to help our support our teachers, and I think that that's a very good value for us to go. And I'm hoping with free market and competition, they can even bring down that cost more.
Well, it's a new thing, and usually as things go forward, they become less expensive. So that's an interesting idea. Listen, I love the idea. As a parent, I learned very quickly that if you have one kid, just the behavioral stuff, you got one kid in the classroom who's acting up, and the parents don't want to acknowledge that there's a real problem there. You have the evidence to show this is exactly what happened, and this is not acceptable. There's proof. There's no doubt about what happened because you'll have the video to show that. But I mean, one kid can stop the other 25 or 30 kids in the classroom from learning anything because the disruption it just interferes with the learning process. I love this idea.
And Brian, you hit it exactly right, because this is going to give the teachers the ability to hold those kids accountable and hold the parents accountable, saying this was your child and this is the actions that they did in my classroom. And here's the evidence of what happened.
Listen, I think it's brilliant. I really do. So tell me a little bit about what will happen from the legislative standpoint. You filed the bill, but you won't consider it until January. How soon could this technology be in a classroom, I guess is what I'm asking.
So we believe that we will be able to have this passed and hopefully signed by the governor. We believe that maybe by March 1st. And the way that it's worded, there's actually money available in the existing grant program. There's still some money left, and they could use that to start putting it as schools apply for that money. So it could still be early next year that this is available and in classrooms.
All right. Well, listen, I think it's a fabulous idea. What you say, it really wasn't the Covenant School thing. You were working on it before then, but it certainly does answer a lot of questions about what can we do. People say, we've got this problem. What can we do to try to increase response times, to make our kids more safe? This seems to check a lot of boxes.
Yes. So the second and third button were exactly because of the Covenant situation that happened here. So because it all came, we're dealing with it right now. We wanted to do everything that we possibly could to make schools as safe as we could right now.
Well, this is fabulous, and I hope that you'll come back and let me know how things are going. But you've heard nothing from anyone. I mean, you never know, what a parents group is going to come up with. But I mean, I can't imagine a parent wouldn't be in favor of this. You've heard nobody raising any objections to the idea so far.
There was only one person that brought something and asked if there was going to be training available for it, and that's going to be up to the school system as they're picking the vendor that they want to do this to make sure there's training involved for the teachers. But there's only 3 buttons, and we've got very intelligent teachers. They'll be able to decide which button to hit depending on the circumstance.
All right. Well, listen, thank you, Senator Mark Pody. Appreciate you joining us here on the drive with this idea. Good luck with it. I really hope that it comes to fruition.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian.
All right, Mark. Merry Christmas. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I want to tell you about Grace Point Healthcare, best known for their Smart Care plans, which start at just $69 a month. And for that, you get a lot. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. You see, Grace Point, they want to deliver medicine affordably, and they want to have menu-style transparent pricing so you know how much it will cost before the care is actually delivered. Now, if you take this Smart Care plan, which, by the way, you can get a plan for your whole family, even newborns, and offer family plans as well. You take that, and you marry it with a high-deductible insurance plan, it could really give you a 1-2 punch that gives you good coverage and could save you money over time. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. And here's the number, 599-6868, to schedule a visit.
I love the state of Tennessee. I love everything about it, and I love hunting and fishing in the state of Tennessee, and what you guys do is so great. I was born and raised here, and this song is for Tennessee and everybody in it. I have roamed across the land, and I have sailed the deepest sea. When I've drawn my last breath, Do this one thing for me. Say, won't you take me back to Tennessee, where southern streams are flowing free? Me and mine, Lord, will always be right at home in Tennessee, right at home in the woods of Tennessee, right at home in Tennessee. Awesome.
The UN Security Council adopting a Gaza resolution, but many are saying it doesn't go far enough. The holidays can be a stressful time for many. We'll have advice on dealing with excess stress this time of year, and we'll have today's closing money news. Those stories on the way at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Thanks to Senator Mark Pody for being able to come on the show at very short notice. And, man, I tell you, I love that idea, Chris. I mean, I really do. I can't think of a downside to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the police body cams. I mean, it's there to hold everyone accountable and for you to know and have evidence of exactly what has taken place.
Yeah, there's, the camera doesn't blink, as they say,
right.
and it gives you an idea. But not only that, when you need help, to know that help is immediately coming.
Yeah. Very true.
And you can potentially cut down on the response time. Every second counts. So I don't see a downside to this at all. I think it's a great idea, and I can't believe somebody hadn't thought of it before now. And as a parent, I once, when my daughter was younger, we had one kid in the classroom. Just a pain in everybody's butt, wouldn't behave, and getting the parents to sort of acknowledge that there was a problem was really hard. The parents of the child, but if you have the video. And you have two witnesses, so it's very hard to argue with that. You just say, well, here's exactly what happened. Here's how it went down. And I think that's a great idea as well, because one bad apple in a classroom can really destroy the educational process. And all those other kids, deserve the opportunity to get a good education. And if there's one kid with behavioral problems in that classroom, I'm sorry, but you can't let one kid stop everybody else from learning.
And hopefully it will help eliminate some of those kids that just kind of want to start trouble because they know nothing's going to happen to them. If they, know, okay, the camera is watching, maybe they'll settle down.
The teacher said, don't make me hit this button.
Yeah.
I can see some of my teachers doing that. As long as we're talking about schools, this week they came out with A to F letter grades for schools. More than a quarter of Tennessee's public K-12 schools could face corrective action and audits from the state after receiving D's or F under the new grading system. And I think, we're not doing a great job in some places. I mean, that's not to say that there aren't some exceptional schools along the way, But this is why I love the governor's plan to let the dollars follow the child, so that parents can choose to take a child somewhere else if you got a school that's not getting it done. I mean, you shouldn't make a kid suffer through a school that can't teach them. And some of these grades are a little, sort of upsetting. Let me run through some of them. Cheatham County School has, this is A, B, C, D, and F. Cheatham County Schools has, hang on a second, I just lost my page. Has 1A, 5 Bs, 5 Cs, 1 D, no Fs. Clarksville Montgomery County School, 9 A's, 11 B's, 10 C's, and 11 D's, but no F's. Dixon County Schools, 4 A's, 7 B's, 2 C's, 1 D, 1 F. Franklin has 4 A's, 1 B, and 3 C's. Murray County Schools, 2 A's, 5 B's, 9 C's, 3 D's, and 2 F's. I mean, really how now, but listen, when we get to Metro Nashville Public Schools, this is abysmal. 10 A's, 27 B's, C's 48, D's 44, F's 14. 14 schools in Metro Nashville Public Schools are rated F. Murfreesboro, 2 A's, 7 B's, 2 C's, 2 D's, and no F's. Robertson County Schools, 1A, 1B, 8 C's, 8 D's, and 0 F's. So I just got a couple more here. Rutherford County Schools, 20 A's, 17 B's, 7 C's, 4 D's. Sumner County Schools, 14 A's, 16 B's, 15 C's, and 4 D's, no F's. Williamson County Schools, 24 A's, 16 B's, 9 C's, 1 D, no F's. And Wilson County Schools, 10 A's, 7 B's, and 6 C's. So if you're a D or an F, you could be facing some corrective monitoring by the state to see what's going on at that school and see if you can get them to come up. But I love the idea of saying, okay, my kid's in a school that is rated F, and I want to take my kid elsewhere. And that's why I love the whole thing that the governor's proposing for this upcoming legislative session, to let the dollars follow the kid. No kid should be forced to go to a school that just can't get it done. And, there ought to be other options for them. And I hope that that system gets off the ground as well. 30 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It is 4:30. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We're looking at 59 degrees here in Music City. We'll have your forecast and the latest traffic on the way. The UN Security Council today adopting a resolution calling for urgent steps to allow safe, unhindered, and expanded humanitarian access throughout Gaza. But critics are calling it watered down. They say it doesn't go far enough. It passed without the original call for an urgent suspension of hostilities. Here's ABC's Britt Clinette with more.
The resolution aims to bring in more aid into Gaza following days of negotiations, but crucially, the statement does not call for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Instead, it's calling for the conditions to be created for one.
While it may be regarded as the most wonderful time of the year, the holidays can be extremely stressful for many. ABC's medical contributor Alok Patel has advice on how to temper that holiday stress.
Reach out to professional help if you need to. Talk to people about how you're feeling, if you're feeling down. And if you have a lot of family around you, you're running around, you're working, you're hustling, make sure you take times for yourself. Take those mental health breaks.
Here we go with the closing money news from ABC. Here is Dave Packer.
From ABC News, Wall Street Now. Indexes were mixed at the close of trading Friday. The Dow was down 18 points, the Nasdaq gained 29 points, and the S&P 500 up almost 8 points. The Commerce Department announced consumer prices dipped 0.1% from October to November, and a hopeful sign inflation is easing. It was the biggest one-month drop since April 2020 and could clear the way for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates in the new year. Drug maker Bristol Myers Squibb announced it's acquiring biopharmaceutical company Karuna Therapeutics in a $14 billion deal. Karuna has developed a new experimental antipsychotic CAR-XT that's being reviewed by the FDA as a treatment for schizophrenia in adults. The Biden administration announced a proposal for billions of dollars in tax credits to hydrogen producers, part of an effort to build a clean alternative fuel industry. U.S. airlines are predicting a good holiday season after hiring thousands of pilots, flight attendants, and other workers in a bid to avoid delays and cancellations that plagued holiday travel last year.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, they are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Want to talk to you about gold, which has been used as money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value and is consistent across generations. See, generational wealth, they say, has three components. One is land, art, and precious metals. Now, land, it's expensive, and your interest rates are really high right now. Art, I don't know anything about art, but I know about something I can hold in my hand and touch. It's real. Gold, silver, platinum, it's tangible. So, that might be a good way of actually investing for your future. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. Gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. And you can learn all about the importance of owning gold and precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. Maybe you have some gold that was given to you. Maybe you're just curious about precious metals, want to learn more. Well, this is the place to turn. They are always available to discuss your options, educate you on the precious metals market, so you should do what I did and go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. You can learn more and set up your one-on-one appointment by going to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
I love this. I'm really in the mood. I hope you are as well. You know, this is the time. I get all warm and fuzzy this time of year.
Oh, you've been in the alcohol, have you?
No, not during the show, but immediately after. That's another different. I'm actually thinking about doing. I mean, not that I don't really drink that much. I mean, you've been around me. I don't think you've ever seen me take more than one drink. Generally,
that's true.
I don't.
Yeah.
I really don't. But I'm thinking about just like doing what they call the dry January, just for snicks and grins.
Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. But then I won't be all warm and fuzzy. Hey, listen, you know what time it's, you know what time it is? Chris, do you know what time it is?
I think I know what time it is.
It's time for that thing that we do every Friday at this time. We call it Fone Ur Farb Friday. That's right. Get on the phone right now, 615-737-9986. Fone Ur Farb Friday. Now, this is a chance where if you got a bee in your bonnet, a burr in your saddle, or a bug in a place where I hope you never, ever have a bug, you just get right on our 100,000-watt soapbox and you express yourself. I mean, you get it off your chest. You tell me what's on your mind, within reason, because we are a family show, and I don't want Chris to have to use that little red button. 615-737-9986. Maybe, you want to take umbrage with something that you have heard on this program, or maybe you have a question. We call that Stump the Chump. So if you try to stump the chump, maybe I can help you. Maybe I know something that'll answer your question. Sometimes I do. Whatever it is, 615-737-9986. Maybe you just want to get on and tell everybody Merry Christmas. Whatever it is, I'm game for anything today. So get busy, folks. Call us up right now. We got some phone lines open. I really love it when we get first-time callers because, this is a participatory show. You can't just, lurk. You have to, get involved. There we go. Now they're coming in. All right, let's start with Billy in Murfreesboro. Billy, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the Drive. Billy, what's on your mind on this Friday before Christmas?
Hey, Brian, I just wanted to tell all you guys, you, Chris, and Mac, who is very rarely at work, Merry Christmas. And I'm just giving Mac a hard time. We're both Chiefs fans.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of under the weather. I've got COVID, but I still listen to you guys. I had a chance to meet you when you very first came to town at that restaurant in Murfreesboro, and you gave me 2 ding stickers.
Well, good. Did you post them and put them in the place they're supposed to be?
Oh, yeah, I did.
I'm thinking we might have to have another round of stickers in 2024. What do you think?
I think that would be a great Christmas present.
All right, I'll start thinking about that because I'm all out of the others. I think I have like maybe 3 or 4 of the stickers left. Thank you for the call, and Merry Christmas to you, Billy. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
All right, let's go to D in Murfreesboro. D, you're on with Brian on the Drive. D, what's on your mind today? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to line 3. Max, I'll come to you in a minute, D. Max in Springfield, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Max?
Brian, Merry Christmas, my friend.
Merry Christmas.
Well, it's when we hear about all of the alleged, quote unquote, contributions to the Biden crime family, one of them that is consistently listed is Ukraine. And isn't it coincidental that we are continuing to send billions of dollars to Ukraine after Ukraine has allegedly enriched that family? Why is no one talking about that?
Well, I got to tell you, getting that information and tracking down where the money has gone has been a problem. And I don't like the fact that it's been so difficult to track down that money. If we send money and we send resources, there ought to be, things in place that allow us to know how that money is being used, et cetera, and who it's going to. And do I trust the Ukrainian government? No. I do struggle with the national security part of this a little bit. I promise you I do. And that I know that they're not good people. And I know that Zelensky is not, he's not the bastion of democracy that we think he is, or a lot of people think he is. I get that. But I also know that right now, you can't just let somebody come across the borders and start sweeping it. Because, I mean, if he was unstopped, if Putin was unstopped in Ukraine, he wouldn't stop there. His goal, make no doubts about it, is to put the old band back together, to reestablish the old Soviet Union. And to that's something that's not in our national security interest. It's also in our national security interest, I think, to have them fight a war that degrades the Russian military. And they have. They truly have. So is it perfect? No, I don't. And do I want to see some changes made? Yes. And do I want to see the border fixed before we give one penny to Ukraine? You're damn straight I do. But I do struggle with that because I do see a national security side to it that I think is helpful to this country. I mean, reasonable people disagree on this, and we can still be friends. But I'm not sure where I am today, but I do at least see an upside to support for Ukraine. But I don't know. I don't get the sense that there's going to be a lot of money going anytime soon. Thank you for the call, though, Max. I appreciate it. I wish there was a way to track that money a lot better. I really do. How about D in Murfreesboro? D, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, D? You're on with Brian on the drive.
What's up, Brian?
Not much. What's on your mind today?
Hey, man, I just wanted to get on here give you your flowers, man. I listen to your I'm a service technician for a HVAC company. And I listen to your station every morning, every time on my way home. And I just wanted to say, man, y'all are doing a really good job. I was dumbfounded to a lot of political points that y'all have given, and y'all have opened up my eyes. So I just wanted to get on here and give you your flowers and tell you to keep it up. You make my drive worthwhile, man.
Well, thank you so much. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that I hope it's entertaining as well. We don't want to just, we don't want to be, all high and mighty and so serious. We take the news seriously, but I'd like to say we don't take ourselves very seriously, and I think that's a nice mix. But D, that means a lot to me, and I'm glad that you have found merit in what we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Merry Christmas, my friend. Let's go to Donovan in Murfreesboro. What's up with you, Donovan? What's on your mind today?
Hey, Brian, I'm fairly new to this, and so I don't remember who it was, but one of the other guys in one of the other segments was talking about his son being getting in trouble and going to juvenile detention, and he wasn't allowed to speak to him for 24 hours. And he was really upset about that. He said, it really, really ticked me off. But for my scenario, my daughter, I'm a retired police officer, and she got in with a boy when she was 17, and they were shoplifting and doing drugs, and she got arrested at my police department, and I think they were doing her a favor because they knew me by letting her not spend the weekend in jail. But now that I look back on it, and I've thought 1,000 times, if she would have spent the weekend in jail, it would have been a shock factor. It would have been an aha moment. I don't ever want to go back there because the first time she got jail time, it was 3 months. After she does 3 months in jail, it ain't no big deal. She go to jail all the time. And my daughter passed away from an overdose, and I lost her at 25. And I can't help but thinking that does it go all the way back to that moment that I said, man, I wish they would have just locked her up for the weekend. And so with the reference here, the contrast is, he didn't get to talk to his son for 24 hours, but could you imagine the shock factor on a teenage kid that did something wrong and got locked up and said, I can't even talk to my parents. They don't ever want to go back there again. And that's just my thought.
Well, first, Donovan, my heart just breaks for what you've gone through, and I do. And, I'm a believer in tough love. I truly am. I mean, I think that, parents sometimes want to rush in and solve problems for their children. But, when children really learn, I think it's my opinion. You may disagree with it, but it's my opinion, is when mistakes are made and they have to deal with the consequences of their mistakes. I think that if you just run in and rescue your kids all the time, if you're what they call a helicopter parent, hovering right over your kid all the time and trying to, or a bulldozer parent who's trying to clear the way for your kid on everything, I don't think that serves the kid well. The kid needs to understand how to do things on their own, and they need to understand that if you screw up, there are consequences for that. My dad was a big believer in that, and as a result, I always knew that there were consequences for my behavior, and I turned out okay, I suppose. I think that the jury's still out. I think but Donovan, my heart breaks for you, and thank you so much for that thought. I greatly appreciate it. Let's go to Ed in Murfreesboro. Hello, Ed. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind today, Ed?
Oh, I'm confused about all this stuff where they're having people kept off the ballot. I want to lead in that I am a staunch Republican. Don't get me wrong here. But the Democrats in Florida decided they're only going to have Joe Biden, so they don't want any competition for him. To me, that's just as much undemocratic as what anybody else is doing. This whole country should have the right to vote, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. These people keeping people off the ballot, I think, is unconstitutional, and all of it should be investigated, and all of it should be talked about.
Well, I'm pretty sure, as sure as I can be, that the Supreme Court is going to straighten out that mess in Colorado. I don't know about the situation in Florida. I'm not that familiar with it, but I will look into it. But I agree with you. It is inappropriate for a court to tell the American people, you can't vote for this man, even though he's the leading candidate in the country right now to be the next president. It's just wrong. It's unconstitutional. It's undemocratic. It's not the way we're supposed to do things in America. And I think the Supreme Court, for a lot of reasons, about 10 of them, is going to disabuse the Supreme Court of Colorado about their notion of how this thing should work. Thank you, Ed, for the call. Greatly appreciate it. I'm going to get one more in. Let's go to Wes in Clarksville. Wes wants to do something. Wes?
Yeah.
I understand you think you have some musical talent?
Oh, I don't know. I got a heart full, but the the problem is that I'm not really so much into all the hubbub of Christmas anymore, but I do appreciate the old times when the family would get together and we'd all share love. And I want to make it short, so I'm going to sing.
Okay.
Through the years, we all will be together, if the Lord allows. Until then, we'll try to muddle through somehow and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
That's lovely. That's what Isn't that a great sentiment, though? Yeah. Wes, that was great. Don't give up your day job, but it was great. No, that was fantastic.
Very nice, Wes.
That was very nice.
Yeah.
I loved it. 51 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund and you don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
A Supreme Court decision being viewed by many as favorable to former President Trump. We'll have the latest. The UN Security Council calling for a ceasefire in the Israeli-Hamas fighting to allow for more humanitarian aid. The U.S. abstained from the vote. We'll tell you why. And finally, a panel of judges making a decision that affects the Nashville Sports Council. Those stories and more at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, as I understand it, in the world of copyright law, you can only hold a copyright on material for, I think it's 95 years. And so a lot of things, every year, a certain number of things move from being, copyright protected to being in the public domain. You know what's fallen off and becoming public domain in 2024?
Something about 95 years old?
Yeah, about that. Mickey Mouse.
Really?
Mickey Mouse becomes a public domain product. Disney no longer controls Mickey Mouse.
How's that going to work?
I don't know, but that's true. That's true. The songs after 95 years go into the public domain, and written works, movies. So anything that's 95 years old will become public domain next year. But the big one is Mickey Mouse, apparently, and
that means we all get in free to Disney next year, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that's going to work quite that way. Tigger, by the way, from Winnie the Pooh, falls off and becomes public domain. Winnie the Pooh is already public domain.
I did not know that.
Yep, that's right. 57 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good evening. It is 5 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. We're down to 56 degrees here in Nashville. The latest traffic report and the weather forecast for the holiday, they're all on the way. The Supreme Court has declined a request from prosecutors to expedite review of a key question raised in Donald Trump's January 6 case in Washington. Here's ABC News correspondent Stephen Portnoy. He's got the latest.
Special counsel Jack Smith argued that the nation had a compelling interest in a fast answer to the immunity question that Trump has raised, but attorneys for the former president said the prosecutor wanted the matter settled with, quote, reckless abandon. In denying Smith's request, the justices have ruled that the immunity question must first be taken up by the D.C. Circuit Appeals Court and then possibly the Supreme Court after that. It all means it's now highly unlikely the election interference case will begin as scheduled on March 4th.
The UN Security Council today calling for a pause in the Israeli-Hamas fighting to make sure more humanitarian aid reaches desperate Gaza Strip civilians. ABC's Andy Field tells us why the U.S. abstained in that vote.
The UN security resolution demanding Hamas release all hostages, as well as Israel making it easier to get humanitarian aid into Gaza. But it does not call on Israel to end the war.
We are favorable to any pause that can lead to improvement in humanitarian aid.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres admitting any stronger language demanding Israel stop attacks would have failed a U.S. Security Council veto.
A panel of judges in Tennessee now has put a temporary stop to legislation that would replace several members of the Nashville Sports Authority next year as a lawsuit arguing that the act would be unconstitutional continues to move through court. The legislation would have changed the Nashville Sports Authority structure by vacating the current 13-member board of directors here in a few days on January 1st. And reappointing 7 people who were members of the board as of June 30th. In addition, the statute would have removed the power of the mayor and the Metro Council to appoint and confirm the remaining 6 directors, instead giving that appointment power to state officials. Well, earlier today, the court issued an order temporarily blocking the legislation from taking effect on January 1st, stating that there would be, quote, an infringement of Metro's constitutionally protected interest in control over its local fares and irreparable harm if the injunction was not issued. That is the latest news. We've got traffic and weather on the way for you. Stand by. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Good evening, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. And I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive for this 22nd day of December. This is the last show before the Christmas holidays and my last show of 2022. I'm going to be taking 2020. That's right. I'm looking at something that says 2022. I'm sorry. 2023. That's right. It's the last show of this year. You'd think by the time we got to December, I'd know what year it is.
Yeah, you're almost there.
I know. Numbers, again, it's the bane of my existence. I'm going to be taking next week off. Cabana wife and I are going to spend some time together, and it's been a very hectic. I'll be honest with you, 2023 has been a good year in many ways, but I'm sort of glad to let this one go. I mean, I've had some health issues this year that I've never had to face, in 1 year. It landed. Really interestingly enough, I always look at things and I try to look at the positive side of things. And it was hard to see that there was anything positive about having perhaps one of the worst case of shingles known to mankind. Mm-hmm. That was a bad deal. And to be honest with you, I still got one little spot on my shoulder that is bothering me, even now. And that happened in Mother's Day. On Mother's Day weekend is when I first started dealing with it. That's how long I've been dealing with shingles. And I understand that for some people, when you have a really bad case, it can be a year or more before you really completely heal.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, the shingles thing is a horrible thing. But even that had a ray of sunshine. And that was that when I went in to get treatment for shingles, they spotted up on a really wonky and irregular heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And my heart is strong, but it was just beating weird. And as a result of that, it was beating against itself. In other words, it was working against the muscles were not contracting in the right order. And therefore, my heart was not as efficient as it should be. I was down, they told me, to 50% efficiency in my heart, which is scary. I had no idea. I had no idea that I was having these wonky heartbeats. I just thought I'm getting old and I wear out quickly, and that's just what it is to be a little older, Turns out that I needed to go and have a couple of procedures to get my heartbeat lined out. And as a result of having it being spotted by a doctor during the shingles process, I ended up going through a couple of procedures, and today I now have nearly perfect heart condition. I mean, it's beating regularly, and my heart is very strong, and I would not have known any of that had it not been for the shingles. So, in one way, it was a bad year from that. Cabana wife had a horrible fall early in the year. And
that's right. Yeah.
And she was sort of out of pocket. So we really have we've had a tough year, and I'm ready to move on for 2024 and get all this other stuff behind me. I am very excited though about the coming year and coverage of the election process, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I am going to take a week off next week. Matt Murphy is going to come in here and handle my show, which, Chris, he needs a lot of watching.
Yeah, I don't think I've got enough eyes to keep
you are
under control.
I need you to understand that I count on you to be my eyes and ears when I'm not here. And no, Matt, I appreciate Matt doing that. It's great of him to do that. So there you have that. Let's see what else have I. Anyway, we're going to take a little time off, and the holidays are. It seems to me. I mean, I've got a lot of things going on between now and Christmas. I mean, we're gonna. Go see the Gatlin Brothers. The Gatlin Brothers are performing at Franklin Theater tonight and tomorrow night.
Hey, Brian, can I interrupt you real quick on the Gatlin note there? I actually spoke to Rudy yesterday.
Did you?
And the concerts at the Franklin Theater, they are being live streamed.
Yes, that's right.
For those that cannot, get there in person, you can go to the Gatlin Brothers website, and there'll be a link there for you to live stream, and that'll be available till December 26th.
Well, I'm going to do something that I wasn't planning on doing right now, but it is the holidays, and as a result of that, and because they gave me permission to do this, I can do this. We can't play music. I can't play music because when I play it, it goes out on the stream, and we're not. If you've ever wondered why you don't hear any music on the stream, it's because we don't have the license for it. But when an artist gives me permission, then we are protected from all that, and the Gatlin Brothers have given me permission to play a little bit of their holiday music for the. Yeah. I love. This song has become, I think, a standard. And you don't normally get new standards, but it's really taken with a lot of people.
Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? This child that you deliver.
I mean, such a great song. I've actually met the guy who wrote that song, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's been recorded so many times.
Yeah.
He did another song that was, I think, sort of appropriate to this season that we find ourselves in with all the problems in Israel. He wrote it many years ago when there was a bombing in Bethlehem. And this is Larry. And then it seems to be appropriate now.
No star tonight over Bethlehem, no peace on earth, goodwill to men. The dogs of war are loose again, no star tonight over Bethlehem.
I've been great friends with the Gatlins for many, many years now, and it really has something to do with the fact that we both grew up in the city of Odessa, and they're good people. I count Larry. Larry I've known longer than Steve and Rudy, but I'm telling you, Rudy is as you know is a big fan of this program.
That's right.
He listens all the time, and he sends us stuff. So if you want a good Christmas show, then or you can stream it if you can't go.
Right.
It's over at the Franklin Theater tonight and tomorrow night. And I tell you, they're good people, and I love them, and I'm looking forward to catching up with them tomorrow night over in Franklin. The band of wife and I are going to go backstage.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they never learned their lesson about that. I don't know why.
I was fortunate. Larry had my wife and I as his guest for the Opry Christmas shows that they've been a part of.
Right.
And that was, fantastic with a variety of other artists. But the performances tonight and tomorrow are strictly Gatlin Brothers Christmas shows.
Right.
Where they perform a lot of their big hits for the first half, take an intermission, and then it's those great Christmas songs to close things out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, it's going to be just the right touch of holiday season. Well, thank you for that. I'd forgotten about them being streamed. They are being streamed, and you can watch them. And what a great way to spend your evening. Crank it up, put it on the phone.
Yeah.
You know the trick. I'm still trying to figure out the trick of how to project something on your phone up onto your TV.
Oh yeah, cast it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's cool. So you could do that as well. Mm-hmm. I'm still figuring. I've done it, but I can't remember how I did it.
Did it by accident.
I did it by accident one time. Let's see what's going on. I got a few minutes here before we have to. I did not want to go down that. I wasn't planning on going down that rabbit hole. But let me tell you something. I really relish my friendship with those guys over the years. They're just great guys, and I'm so pleased to have them and count them as friends. There's an interesting thing going on. Remember, the Biden investigation is ongoing right now. The Biden Incorporated investigation. Everybody thinks it's about Hunter Biden. It's really not about Hunter Biden. It's about Joe Biden and whether or not he has been somehow co-opted by, a quid pro quo thing. Did he take a bribe in order for certain actions to be taken, official actions to be taken back when he was vice president? And then is that then an impeachable offense is the question. And there's, we've been trying to get all this evidence gathered up and, getting the financial records and getting people in to testify. We're supposed to have a closed-door deposition with James Biden someday soon. The Hunter Biden thing is on hold while they fight that out. But eventually I think that will happen. Well, here's another shoe to drop in all of that. Do the feds have FISA evidence on the Bidens? Court memo suggests they might, and Congress wants it. This from justthenews.com. Ever since Hunter Biden was captured in a recording calling his client Patrick Ho the spy chief of China, questions have swirled around the Chinese official who headed a U.S.-based think tank that worked to advance the interest of CEFC China Energy and its now vanished founder, Ye Jianming. Court records from Ho's case reviewed by Just the News show the FBI and Justice Department gathered evidence under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act from around the time when Hunter Biden and his uncle James were dealing with CEFC officials, according to Ho, including Ho. Joe Biden also met twice with CEFC officials, once as vice president and once as a private citizen, according to statements made by a family friend to the FBI. The United States intends to offer into evidence or otherwise use or disclose any proceedings in the above captioned matter information. You can read the memo. There's a memo. I'm reading from the memo. Now investigators in President Joe Biden's impeachment inquiry in Congress want to review that FISA evidence to see if it has any communications between Biden family members and the Chinese business partners. This is certainly interesting information. We'll pursue it, every piece of evidence that relates to Hunter and his father. If there are FISA intercepts, it's something we should try to get, said Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona, a member of the House Judiciary Committee that's part of the impeachment process. Evidence intercepted under FISA is sensitive intelligence, but Congress has in the past succeeded in important investigations obtaining it, including the post-9/11 inquiry of security failures and the Russian collusion case, where an intercept of Trump National Security Advisor Mike Flynn with a Russian ambassador was shown to lawmakers. So there's precedent for this, actually getting it. Now, look, if our government, and I can't imagine that they weren't monitoring these Chinese officials, I would be shocked, stunned, and amazed. I mean, that would seem to be a high-profile target. So I'm certain that they were monitoring, and the question is, in the monitoring of all that, did they capture conversations with members of the Biden family or with Joe Biden specifically? And what do those conversations show? That would be really interesting, wouldn't it? I think it'd be very interesting. Again, there is a precedent for getting this information turned over to Congress, and so it will take some time, but I think listen, the National Security Agency records everything. I mean, they record anything, any conversation that is had between somebody outside of this country and somebody calling into this country or calling out of this country. If there's a person on the other side of, that's not an American citizen, the National Security Agency has full authority to record that conversation. And they do. They record every conversation that either leaves or comes into the United States. And they basically record conversations all over the world. Scoop them up, and then they have computers sort through them, listening for key words. And when they find key words, then they flag them, and it becomes part of the intelligence stream. So it's there. They've got it if it exists, and now it's just a matter of going through the courts and getting that information back, and that could be very interesting. That might be something that the Bidens thought would never reach the light of day, and there's nothing you can do to change it because it's there. I mean, the recording is what the recording is, so I hope that they get that information. The president, by the way, decided this year to skip his year-end press conference. It's a tradition that the president gives a year-end press conference, but you know how that was going to go. He can't put a sentence together, and they're trying to shield him from the press. So this year, they decided they would forego and break with the tradition long held in the White House to give a year-end press conference. Tells you a little bit about, what they're going to be doing to protect the old boy as we head into the 2024 election season. 21 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. We have big news from DT McCall's. There's still some time left if you're thinking about buying a gun safe, but putting it off, now is the time. Gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. And what dad wouldn't love to get a gun safe for Christmas? DT McCall's is the largest Liberty safe dealer in all of Tennessee. And the reason? Free delivery and setup. I mean, others charge $500 at least for delivery and setup of the big models and $300 for the small models. DT McCall & Sons delivers every safe free, every time period, never a setup charge. Security is so important these days, and gun safes can be used for all kinds of things. Valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now on your gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. To learn more, just go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information.
A Supreme Court decision being viewed by many as favorable to former President Trump. We'll have the latest on that. Another major auto recall. And a Connecticut postal worker, he's being hailed as a hero tonight. We'll tell you why. Those stories coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
26 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. By the way, coming up in a few minutes, round 2 of Fone Ur Farb Friday, the last one for the year. So let's make it a good one. If you got something on your, stuck in your craw. Now, first of all, that sounds really unpleasant.
Where is the craw exactly?
I don't know, but I mean, I got a bone to pick with you is what you're saying. I got something stuck in my craw. I need to get off my. I don't know. You get it out of your craw. I don't know where your craw is.
I don't think I have a craw.
I know. Where did that word come from? But anyway, we'll be doing that at 5:35 after the news with Jay Harper. A little woke news here. This ought to irritate you. Biden's green energy plan is ramping up the use of heat pumps, which will impose higher cost on Americans. President Biden took a dramatic step last month to usher in the use of electric heat pumps in U.S. homes, even though for most households it would significantly increase the cost of heating your home. This according to the Washington Times. Mr. Biden invoked the rarely used Defense Production Act to authorize spending $169 million to bolster electric heat pump manufacturing nationwide. This is an idea of Mr. Biden, and Energy Secretary, or I like to call her Energy Elf, Jennifer Granholm, boasted the move would result in thousands of high-paying manufacturing jobs while creating healthier indoor spaces through homes that have clean energy technologies. But about 60% of homes right now use natural gas for heating and water last year, and the Department of Energy has determined that natural gas heat was more than 3 times cheaper than electric heat last year. So by pushing, as they do, they love to push their ideas. They like to pick winners and losers instead of letting the market decide. They are pushing a technology on you that will be more costly over the life of your home. The American Gas Association analysis found the energy cost of an all-electric home using a heat pump built for colder climates is $1,458, or 37% higher than a home heated by natural gas. The natural gas-heated home saves an average of $390 a year compared to a house that uses a cold climate heat pump. Heat pumps save money for those using propane or heating oil. About 5% of U.S. households use propane as their primary source, and only about 4% use heating oil. So there you go. Your government at work making your home more expensive and causing you to spend more money than you otherwise would, all in the name of their Green New Deal proposals. And this one is another one. Climate activists are pushing the federal government to seize swaths of private land so they can speed up the construction of wind turbines and fields of solar panels. An estimated 160 million acres of land must be given over to Green New Deal-style development to meet Joe Biden's net zero objectives, and 78% of land in America's 48 contiguous states is privately owned. So the only way for them to get the land they need to do this is to take your land through eminent domain. It's being pushed by climate activists, but also by woke capital Jamie Dimon, Jamie Dimon, CEO of J.P. Morgan, told shareholders that to expedite progress, governments, businesses, and non-governmental agencies need to align across a series of practical policy changes that comprehensively address fundamental issues that are holding us back. So the way you do that is through eminent domain. They come in and they seize your land for the greater good, comrade. I mean, that's what it's beginning to sound like, isn't it? There you have it. Woke news. 30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Good evening. It is 5:30. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'm Jay Harper. We've got your top stories. We've got a clear sky, 59 degrees, a full forecast, and the latest traffic report are just mere minutes away. The U.S. Supreme Court today declined to immediately decide former President Trump's claim that he cannot be prosecuted for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Trump is trying to invoke presidential immunity. The Supreme Court decision means a lower court will continue reviewing the claim. It also means the 4 criminal cases that Trump faces could be jockeying for position on court calendars just as the presidential primaries ramp up. Here's more from ABC's Aaron Katursky.
March 4th and the January 6th case was supposed to be first, but right after that, March 25th, is the case here in New York involving hush money paid to porn actress Stormy Daniels. And then in May, there's supposed to be yet another case going forward involving the classified documents, that case heard down in Florida. Any move on one could affect the start of another.
This week, Toyota announced it's recalling over 1 million cars because of an airbag sensor problem. Then Honda, they recalled over 2 million vehicles for some fuel pump failures. Well, Tesla, they have now joined the list of recalls. Here's ABC's Alex Stone.
Tesla's recall includes over 120,000 2021 to 2023 Model S and Model X vehicles because the doors may unlatch and open during a crash. According to government documents, the software in the vehicle sends commands that do not comply with safety standards and can allow doors to unlatch and open in a crash. Tesla is releasing an over-the-air software update to fix the issue.
He came to deliver mail, and he stayed and saved lives. Why a Connecticut mail carrier being hailed as a hero this evening. Here's ABC's Dave Packer.
Mail carrier Michael Waite making his rounds at the Terrace Gardens condos in Wallingford, Connecticut when he saw a man come out of the building with no shirt.
The smoke was just billowing over his head.
Waite didn't wait. He
just started running from door to door, slamming on the doors, yelling fire, telling people to get out.
Moving forward through the smoke and shattered glass.
I was the only one out here, so it just felt like the right thing to do at the time.
With the help of Waite, everyone got out safely.
Well, a happy holidays for those folks, certainly. That is the latest news. We've got traffic and weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
I want to talk to you about United Structural Systems, a great company, and they have a reputation for great customer service, and people who work with them, they just rave them. Yeah, when you're calling them in, it's because you may have a real serious problem, you think, and you know what? Sometimes it is a serious problem. Sometimes it's not as bad as you think it is, but it will get worse if you don't do something about it. Other times it turns out to be not much at all, and that's the thing. They're just going to tell you what is. And they're going to give you their best judgment. And then at the end of the day, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. And here are some satisfied customers. Jerry in Hermitage. Best crew I've ever had do work on our house. Here's one. Chris. USS is my go-to vendor for everything related to foundation concerns and repairs. USS has never steered my clients or me wrong. I trust them completely with all foundation questions and concerns. USS is loyal and trustworthy. Jeffrey, the service was A+++. On top of that, the work they did actually solved my problem. Constance, excellent experience. They put me at ease during the whole process. The folks at United Structural Systems will come to your house and get you straightened out. And I'm telling you, they're really good people. Merry Christmas from the folks at USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com or call this number, 615-488-7855. Hey, Merry Christmas from the Drive. Chris Webber and I wish you the very best of holiday season. And we hope that, you will be back with us for an exciting 2024, which will be, when we come back, we'll be only a few days away from the Iowa caucuses. So we'll be looking forward to it. We found out what a craw was, right?
Yeah, thanks to Nate and Sandra on the text line. A craw is basically part of the esophagus area of a bird, like in the throat. It's a food storage area.
So when you say something is stuck in your craw, you're talking about something stuck in your throat.
Yeah, I guess that's what it means.
All right. Well, if you got something stuck in your craw, now is the perfect time to get in talking. It's time for Fone Ur Farb Friday. That's right, 615-737-9986. That's the number to call. Be in a bonnet, to burn your saddle, a bug in a place where you don't want to have a bug. Just get on the line and share that with us. We have 3 open lines right now. People stacked up, ready to go. So let's move into it. By the way, we got some extra time today. So, we will take a lot of calls, and we love first-time callers. Maybe just want to call and say Merry Christmas to people. We had a guy that sang last time. That was great.
Very nice, too.
That was very nice, right. Tim in Lebanon, you're up with Brian on the Drive. We'll start out with you. Tim, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Brian. First off, let me start by saying it was great having you out at Scoreboards at Cedar Creek and getting to meet you. Big fan, first-time caller.
Oh, well, thank you. Good. I appreciate that. That was a fun event.
It was. Now, I have thoughts on this whole Biden border deal and the crisis that's going on with this and what the Democrats are up to. I've been listening to you, and you're talking about the long-term plan to change the voting base. I believe that you're absolutely spot on with that, but I believe there's a component of it we're missing. You go back to Joe Biden's first day in office, he signed an executive order to now count illegal aliens in the census. Our electoral college votes are based on the census. They're skewing the electoral college votes with the immigrants. We know some are going to the sanctuary cities that they already have small electoral votes on, but there's a whole bunch of them. We don't know where they're going.
Right.
And I believe there's something afoot with all these immigrants coming in right after he said they're to be counting the census, and it's going to skew and change the electoral college votes. And I think they've got it planned out to be in their favor.
Wow, I haven't thought that one through. That's interesting. That's an interesting theory. Tim, thank you so much for bringing that to us. That's something to keep an eye on. I mean, clearly their goal is to change the demographics, but they may have multiple ways of going at that. Man, I'll have to spend some time doing some homework on that one. Steve in Cookville, you're up next on the Drive. Hello, Steve. What's on your mind today?
Well, you were just talking about heating our houses and buildings to electricity. Now, with them phasing out fossil fuel plants and et cetera, where in the world and trying to build up EVs and everything, where's all this power going to come from, Brian?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is the thing that I think is short-sighted about their whole thinking on it. I mean, where do you get electricity in the future? You cannot wind turbine and solar your way out of this problem. I just don't know. I mean, you'd have to take an entire state of the country and turn it into a solar farm. It's short-sighted, and this is the thing that drives me crazy about let the people decide what kind of products they want, and leave us the hell alone, would you? Government doesn't, it never makes the situation better. It only makes it worse. And your desire, this maniacal desire that you have, this way you look at it with just without our way is better, without considering what all of the options and what goes along with it, is not helpful. What always works is the free enterprise system, which goes and says, look, we're going to ask people what they want, and we're going to give them products that they desire. And the best ideas will rise within that market. The worst ideas will fall by the wayside, but not in their world. I hate it. I hate it so much. Heather in Nashville, we got some open lines, by the way, 615-737-9986. Heather in Nashville, you're up with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind today, Heather?
Well, I'll just comment on that last caller too. And the solar. I mean, nobody seems to talk about the whole Solyndra debacle that stole our money, taxpayer money during the Obama administration, with solar and all of that. That's just crazy. And where we're going to get the electricity. But I was going to comment on the school choice. I think school choice is a great idea, and the vouchers to be able to follow the kids and more competition for the schools. But when you think it all the way through, I wonder about the kids that are already in private schools. I know the first year it's just going to be stepped up until finally it should be available to everybody. So the ones that are already in private schools, and if those parents qualify, or if there's a way to qualify, it seems like they'll just get the money that they're already spending, and I would think it would make a much, much bigger budget for all the money. And if we could just somehow make the schools competitive and compete more like the private schools, I mean, they have high tuitions, they pay good, they have better teachers, they have better education, and they make a profit. So somehow, if we could combine, following their example, maybe.
Well, I think competition is a good thing. And with public schools, you don't have competition. It's like, it's our school system. If you don't like it, then lump it. This is your only option. And I went through all of those schools in the state of Tennessee that are failing. Parents ought to have another option. They ought to. You shouldn't be forced to send your kid to a school that is not teaching your kid. And if the different school districts can't get it going, if they can't figure it out, then the parents ought to have another option. And I love this idea. I do think that competition makes everything better. And so we'll see whether this thing makes the school systems around the area get better, or whether they just sort of become smaller. I think that might well also be the case. Thank you for it. And by the way, not every school district has failing grades. Some are doing quite well, but there are some that, and Davidson County is a perfect example of it. Let's go to Hendersonville. Mr. Bill is on the line. Mr. Bill, what's on your mind today?
Well, Brian, it's such a delight to hear your voice every time, and especially during this time of year. But I was so sad and heartbroken to hear that your 28-foot inflatable Santa had met such a sad and tragic end. So I've got a solution for you, and that is, since your cabana wife is such an accomplished seamstress, what you could do is at Halloween, you could leave your 50-foot Skeletor up in the front yard, and she could make a giant Santa outfit for it. And between Halloween, and it is pronounced Halloween and not Halloween, as Chris Webber likes to say, you could have her make a pilgrim outfit for it for Thanksgiving, and then put the Santa Claus outfit on it the day after Thanksgiving, and that way your Skeletor could be Santa's Skeletor.
Well, that's a wonderful idea. And then Easter, we could put some ears on it.
Hey, that's even better. And like that, you could go for July the 4th. You could make it Uncle Sam.
Yeah, there you go. I like this idea. I'm gonna have a conversation with Cabana Wife about this. But
and by the way, you know why? I can tell you. You know why Chris Webber hates the Carpenters?
No, because he has no taste in music, probably. But what's your theory?
I think it was because that lovely lady, Miss Carpenter, would not marry him. That's the reason.
No,
He was
okay.
a rejected lover.
I think she might have been a little bit before his
That's
time.
true, yeah. She left this mortal coil before I was of age.
There's a horrible joke that was told. She died of anorexia nervosa. She didn't eat. She thought she was grotesquely overweight, and she would not eat.
Mm-hmm.
And the joke that was going around, it's a crude joke. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even tell it.
Yeah, I might want to watch it.
But if the thing is if Karen Carpenter had eaten that sandwich that Mama Cass choked on, they'd both be alive today.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
That's bad, and that's really in poor taste, isn't it? Oh, I'm sorry. And that just destroys the whole Christmas spirit, doesn't it? Hey, listen, I got open lines, and we got some time to fill here today. 615-737-9986. Ken in Santa Fe, I'm sorry. We're not in New Mexico. Ken, so tell me what's on your mind today.
Okay, first of all, I just want to wish all of you guys a Merry Christmas. Y'all do an excellent job, and I hope we get to hear more from you just after the first. But what my concern is who are we going to get on the radio that we can trust while y'all are out, and that we can really trust to give us the information we really need?
Well, the good news is that Matt Murphy is going to fill in for me next week, so he'll be providing all of that news and information for you.
But he can't do it every day, all day. Who else we're going to have?
Oh, we're going to have a compelling lineup. We're going to be seeing. You're going to be hearing for the very first time, doing some talk radio. A woman who has great broadcasting chops. Joan Jones is going to be here, and some other fill-in people. But there'll be plenty of people here, and believe me, I'm not far from the microphone if things get exciting. Okay.
Okay. I was just worried about those big events that may come up. Hey, we need some real trustworthy announcers out there to fill us in, you know?
Well, all right. I appreciate it, Ken. Thank you for the nice words. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you, Ken. All right. Chris in White Bluff, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Chris?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is it, as a state, can we not opt out of the solar and wind farms? Because I know they've already blown up one coal factory through of TVAs, and they're already got the other one on the books to be blown up, just to take it out where you can't use it anymore. I mean, can we not, as a state, say, we're not going to do this. We're going to keep using coal because it works, and it's not as bad as you keep saying it is.
Well, I don't know. You may not. If they set up federal guidelines that do away with certain kind of output from a power plant, we may not have the option. You may not be able to override the federal guidelines. But what I would say to you, though, is that I love one thing that our governor is doing. He's trying to push a nuclear, and I love the idea of nuclear power. I believe it's the real way to solve our electrical problems in the future, and I'm hoping that they will do that. I read somewhere where there's at the Oak Ridge facility, they're going to be putting a new test bed for nuclear power. That's going to be approved, and that will be going forward. So I like that idea. Let's Tennessee take care of its own business. We'll put some nuclear power plants in Tennessee, and then we just don't have to worry about it. I mean, some of our power already comes from nuclear. Thank you for that call. I do think that's the way to go. I mean, solar and wind is going to be a disaster. It's not that there's not a place for it. It's just not. It's not enough. Really, honestly. Let's see. Where do we want to go next? Let's go to Marty in Lafayette. Marty, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Marty?
Hey, guys. First of all, thanks for your program, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I didn't get a chance to call in the other day when you guys were discussing your favorite Christmas songs. There was a song back in the 80s by a group called Cloud Valley Ensemble. They used to swing bluegrass music, and they had a song called Christmas at the Opry. And it's a really wonderful song, and I can't find it. So I was just wondering if any other listener out there has heard of the group and have heard that song.
I've not heard of it, but I'll tell you, if there's anybody in the world who can find it, it's Chris Webber.
Yes.
So I'll put
Chris
him on
Webber.
that. So stay tuned. Before we get out of here, maybe we'll be able to hear Christmas at the Opry.
It's a wonderful song. It talks about Grandpa Jones and little Jimmy Dickens and all the guys that have been at the Opry for many, many moons. It's just a wonderful Christmas tune. I don't think that group got the green light to go ahead in their career, but whatever. But it was a wonderful song, and I can't find it anywhere.
All right, well, I'll put Chris on it. I mean, if it's findable, Chris will find it. He's amazing. He's amazing. I got time for one more. Let's go to Aaron in Portland. Aaron, what's on your mind today?
Well, first off, I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I hope you guys are all safe in your time off. And the best thing that's ever happened in the United States this year happened this morning on WWTN. You had a young lady named Kennedy that was your assistant host that took over the show. And it was just so exciting to hear that with all the things that are going on with kids and how kids are being manipulated and how they're being taught to think this way, that she talked about the Bible, she talked about the current situations, she said a beautiful prayer at the end, and I think that Dan Mandis ought to give her own spot on the radio.
Well, I missed that. I'll have to go back and listen to it. That's great.
I think he's referring to Chris Hand's young.
Oh, is that
daughter.
who it was?
I believe so. Yeah, I think she
Wow,
was in
that's
studio with Chris this morning.
Well, that sounds like great fun. I love that. I'll have to go back and listen to the show. I was out dealing with the last-minute Christmas stuff this morning, so I missed it. All right, listen, thank you all. We have this is the last Fone Ur Farb Friday for 2023, but we'll have many more in 2024. It's 55 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Beacon Capital Management understands that the market, well, it can be up, it can be down, it can be really scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to help you assess where you are and then help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Well, Beacon can provide that reassurance, and it starts with a simple phone call to this number. I'm going to give it to you several times, so write it down, 615-488-9303. And now the experts at Beacon will take some information from you. They'll get back to you. But the whole process, you don't have anything to lose except for the worry you might have. Get started today by calling that number, 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. That number again, here's the last time I'm going to give it to you, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund and you don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Good evening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. It is 6 p.m. and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got 52 degrees now with some clouds moving in. The forecast and the latest traffic report are upcoming. As starvation becomes more of a reality in Gaza, the UN Security Council adopted a resolution today calling for aid deliveries to be expedited. However, the plea was modified from an urgent suspension of hostilities between Israel and Hamas to requesting safe, unhindered, and expanded humanitarian access. Riyad Mansour, the Palestinian envoy to the UN, called it a step in the right direction, but still pressed for a ceasefire, telling the council this will not end the suffering of his people.
What we are dealing with is an attempt at the destruction of our people and their displacement forever.
The U.S. and Russia both abstained from voting on the measure, and it was passed 13-0. The Supreme Court has declined a request from prosecutors to expedite review of a key question that was raised in Donald Trump's January 6th case in Washington. ABC News correspondent Stephen Portnoy has the latest.
The justices responded to Jack Smith's urgent request with a single sentence denying his petition. The special counsel had pointed to the speed with which justices took up the Watergate case as he sought to have them skip past appellate review and quickly answer whether a former president is immune from prosecution for his acts in office. With the Supreme Court denying Smith's request, the question will first be answered by the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. A hearing there is set for January 9th.
Police gave the all-clear earlier today in Nashville after a false threat was made toward a local school. Metro Nashville police officers went to Hume Fogg High School to investigate the threat. Police said the caller who made the threat over the phone said they were going to, quote, shoot up the school, even though police said the school is out on winter break. Police said there were still a handful of students and staff in the building at the time. Wrestling practice was going on. Police said there was no credible threat found, and the building was cleared without incident. And finally, the big Christmas getaway is underway at the nation's airports. You heard Jack Womack's traffic report a bit ago. Quite the backup there at BNA. Here's Alex Stone to report with what's going on across the country.
Casey Scow and his wife are flying with their 3 young children on this busy travel day, and they've pulled out all the stops to make it as calm as possible.
It's not easy. We got coloring books. We got, little tennis balls that they kick around.
Flight cancellations are remaining relatively low, with around 80 flights canceled in all of the U.S. today. United has the most canceled flights of any major airline, and less than 1% of its flights are canceled.
Over 2.8 million more people are expected to travel this holiday season versus last year. That is the latest news. We'll have the weather and Jack's latest traffic report. They're all next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and this is The Drive. This is the last hour of the last show that I'll be doing in 2023. I'll be back in 2024. I mean, you can't get shed of me. I mean, I'm like a bad penny. I just keep showing up. In fact, you know, it was in 2018 they asked me to come in and fill in for a few weeks. And so, hey, you know, we need you to fill in. And I did, and they just haven't figured out a way to get rid of me yet.
Well, just keep trying, I guess. That's all I can tell you.
That's right. Sooner or later, I'll give them a good enough reason, I suppose. We hope that you are having a good holiday season, and hope that I want to just get it out of the way now, so if I don't get to it later, I want you to have the merriest of Christmas. I hope you have a great time with family, and I hope you'll remember the reason for the season. And really, honestly, I am as I look back upon the years that I've been working here at Super Talk 99, I consider myself immensely blessed that I have such a good and loyal audience that finds favor with what we do each day. I know I want you to know I appreciate it, and I'm sure Chris appreciates it. We really do. We do exist because you are there, and if you weren't there, we wouldn't be around. I promise you, that's the way it works. So we are dependent on our audience, and I'm feeling the love is what I'm feeling, and I want you to know that we care deeply about you as well. Let's see. Again, what do I want to do? Well, I'll just start with this. The Supreme Court today sort of surprised some people by deciding that they were not going to take up a case. Now, that's often the case. The Supreme Court often says, no, we declined to take that case. And what that means sometimes is it means that the lower court ruling stands, or it means generally that it's going back to the lower court, or that they want the lower court to decide the issue, and then maybe they'll be drawn into it at a later date. And that's sort of what this one is. This has to do with Jack Smith, who's investigating President Trump, and he believes that the president was working to take away the outcome of the 2020 election. He believed very deeply that the President Trump was acting inappropriately to try to strike down the will of the people, and he's investigating it for that. But there's a question that has really never been answered, and the question is: does the President of the United States have immunity while he is president of the United States for things that happen? I mean, there's a legal thought here that maybe he does, and so this immunity case is he can't go anywhere. I mean, because if the president of the United States has immunity, then his case falls apart instantly. So what he did was, rather than have that come up in the middle of his trial, which was scheduled to start in March, he lobbed a request over to the Supreme Court saying, look, given the nature of what's going on here, we think there's a compelling reason for the Supreme Court to take this matter up before we go to trial. And he made a filing before the Supreme Court saying, take this up and let me know, does the president have immunity? This is one single question, or does he not? And if the Supreme Court had taken it up, he could have started and made a quick ruling. It would have been the final say, and then he could have, if the Supreme Court sided with him, he could have gone forward with his trial on March 4th, and there wouldn't be anything that would interrupt him. But the Supreme Court said no. The Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to take that up. This must be considered by the lower courts first, and then, let it go through in regular order. Now, what does that mean, essentially? Well, it's sort of a blow to Jack Smith in that his plan now to start the trial in March before we get too deep into the presidential election season has now been brought into question. You see, as it turns out, if it goes back to the lower court, and there's a 3-court judge panel that will hear this case, and if they rule, no matter what the ruling is, it can be appealed to the entire D.C. appeals court, all 7 judges, I think, that are on the appeals court, and then they would have to consider it, and that would take some time, and then it could be then again appealed to the Supreme Court. And so the bottom line is, This ain't all going to happen before March 4th. And by the way, we had a story the other day that said Trump could have it all clinched up and have the nomination sealed up by March. So not a good move, not a good ruling, however, for Jack Smith, a pretty good ruling for the former President Trump. So here is what Jonathan Turley thought about all of this on Fox News earlier today.
Frozen since the court looked at this question. So he may indeed lose that March date, and then it's a real problem. You go right over a cliff because this is a very jammed calendar. So it's not clear if he could fit a trial between that date and the election. The D.C. Circuit was always a good court for Jack Smith. He cannot do better than the D.C. Circuit to hear this case. It's the problem for Jack Smith is that he knows that whatever the D.C. Circuit decides, there's likely to be an appeal. So he was willing to give up what many people assumed would be a favorable decision in order to maximize a favorable calendar. Now, what happens now is not going to work as planned for Jack Smith. Once they hear this case in January, they have to write the opinion. They'll do that as quickly as possible. But then Trump's people can do what's called an appeal in bank, which is to ask the court as a whole to look at this question before they appeal to the Supreme Court. That will take time. And then if the in bank accepts the case, then he'll never see a March trial. But then at that point, the Trump people can apply to the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of runway now between him and that March date that he's got to be able to cross. And the odds are he's not going to be able to stick the landing. He's going to lose that March date.
Well, I think that Turley has it right. Jonathan Turley has it correct, exactly right. It doesn't look as if this is going to fit into Jack Smith's pipeline. What he wanted to do was interrupt Trump right in the middle of the election season. And now I don't see a way that this gets done in a timely fashion. In fact, it's entirely possible that this matter could be dragged out by attorneys until it would not be considered by the high court before the high court goes on its summer vacation. Would they come back? I've never seen it happen. I've never seen the high court come back from a summer vacation. I mean, they have to have their time in Vermont, you understand. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I mean, not a good ruling today for Jack Smith. And this, by the way, is separate and apart from this whole thing with that the Colorado Supreme Court was considering. The Colorado Supreme Court, as you may recall the other day, said that Donald Trump can't be on the ballot in the state of Colorado. And that as certain as I am about anything in life, I'm pretty sure the high court is going to take that case and they're going to tell the Colorado Supreme Court that they have acted inappropriately and that they cannot do the thing that they're trying to do. This whole idea is based upon the 14th Amendment, the insurrection clause. And I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who know a lot about the law more than I do. I've listened to some of the smartest people on constitutional law. Did I play this for you? I did it yesterday, but I want to play it again. This whole soundbite comes from Alan Dershowitz, who he disassembles the Supreme Court decision in the state of Colorado about this.
In the 60 years I've been practicing and teaching law, I've never seen a decision that is so anti-democratic and so unconstitutional. It is absurd. The idea that the 14th Amendment was supposed to be substitute to the impeachment provision carefully drafted by the framers is wrong. If you want to impeach a president, if you want to make him not be able to run in the future, there's a provision. It requires a 2/3 vote of the Senate. But the idea that the framers of the 14th Amendment intended to circumvent that carefully drawn provision and simply allow any state to make up grounds for denying him the right to be on the ballot undercuts democracy. The 14th Amendment itself is very clear. It says in Section 5, the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. The Congress. That's the United States Congress. There's no provision in the 14th Amendment for any state, or certainly any state court, to interfere with the right to vote by its citizens. So this is a terrible, terrible decision. It will cause disarray. It will, if it were to be affirmed by the Supreme Court, which I doubt it will be, it would cause distrust in the electoral process and would result in a repeat of 2020, where whatever the result of the election was, particularly if Trump were to lose, he wouldn't accept the loss, and he would have, in this case, some legal basis for questioning whether or not the courts had any proper role to play in taking him off the ballot of some states. Right now, he's only been taken off the ballot of a state in which he was going to lose anyway. But this decision, the logic of this decision applies to any state. It really says any state can disqualify Trump because they've made a conclusion that he was involved in an insurrection. Wouldn't even know what an insurrection is. He hasn't been charged with insurrection. He hasn't been convicted of insurrection. People will say that Biden was involved in an insurrection in allowing thousands of people to come across the border, or the people who were involved in the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, or the people today who are protesting in the streets all over the country against American policy toward Israel. Some of these are socialist revolutionaries. You have to have a definition of what an insurrection is. Right. And the Colorado Supreme Court gets a C-. You can't have something that's debatable as a provision for getting voters denied the right to vote for or against Trump. I want to vote against him, but I want the election to be a clean election. I want him to lose fair and square and not allow him to have an argument that, look, the Supreme Court of Colorado or other state courts denied the voters the right to vote for me.
I mean, if you hear Dershowitz, he says at the end there, I don't even want to vote for Trump. I don't like Trump. I want him to lose. But still, even with that, he can't make heads or tails out of what the Colorado Supreme Court was doing. And he's right. I mean, there's just no doubt that's going to be. So, I mean, the courts are working, in Trump's favor, it would seem, by the Supreme Court saying they're not going to take up the question that Jack Smith threw in their direction. And I am all but certain that the high court will throw out what the Colorado Supreme Court has done. In fact, I've got another story about that. Let me see if I can find it. There was another state that actually was asked to consider that 14th Amendment argument, and they threw it out just today. So, I mean, nobody believes they got it right. And it's just bizarre, just so very bizarre that they tried to pull that one off. That's never going to stand, never going to stand. So there you have it. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Genesis Diamonds has just the relief you need this holiday season, and you have just a little bit more time left to try to take advantage of their 5-year 0% interest on anything and everything sale. That's right, Genesis has rolled back interest rates to 0.0%. So that $5,000 diamond ring is yours for just $85 a month. People are loving this offer, especially this year when finance rates are so high everywhere else. Nothing's held back at Genesis. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, certified natural diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, even luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. Just pick any item for that special someone and spread your payments over 5 years without paying a dime in interest. A $10,000 designer ring comes to just $167 a month. So don't miss this incredible offer. Colored gemstones, designer fashion jewelry, this year's most treasured gifts, all included in this once-a-year offer. At Genesis, they are breaking all the rules to make sure this holiday season your money goes farther. Best prices, unbeatable selection, highest quality, and super aggressive financing. Take advantage of this now before the holiday ends. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit only.
A shooting incident on Briley Parkway today was not as it originally appeared. We will explain. And we'll have today's closing money news. That's all coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, glad that you're with us here on the last show that I'll be doing in the year 2023. You know what's throwing me off is I'm looking at my calendar. I have a clock and a calendar. It's the 22nd day of December. I keep saying 2020. That's what it is. That's what's throwing me off. It is the 22nd day of 2023 in this month of December, and so this is my last show of the year. So I'm going to kick back and I don't ruminate. Ruminate over all my. Is there rum involved in ruminating? I hope so. No, I mean ruminate about the year that has passed and the year that's about to be, and just I think during the holidays and the beginning of the new year, good time to take stock of all your blessings and to sort of put life in perspective.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go.
Unless you have a pretty bleak outlook on things, then you may not want to think about it.
But I'm not that guy. I'm a happy guy.
Yeah.
I'm a happy guy. So anyway, again, Merry Christmas to you and your family. There was a bit of good economic news today. Couldn't we use a little bit of that? Prices fell in November for the first time since 2020. So, which suggests that perhaps, just perhaps, I've never seen this happen, but apparently it may happen this time, that the Fed has engineered the so-called soft landing. Now, there are others out there who say, it really, honestly, do not get too optimistic here. We've still got some big problems in our economy, and I think that's probably true. But the prices fell in November, and that's inflation. And inflation is now approaching the Fed target of 2%. It was up at around 7% for a while, which was outrageous. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's doing well and that our wages have kept up with the inflation that we've had to experience since Joe Biden took office. That's still a problem. But, at least we may get to the point now where in 2024 we could see the interest rates come back down, which would be a blessing in so many things, so many ways to especially in the housing industry. Get people, getting mortgages and getting moved into houses again. When the interest rates come down, I think that would be very helpful. There it is. From the Wall Street Journal, core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy costs, rose just 1.9% on a 6-month annualized basis, suggesting the Fed is well on its way to reaching its target. Consumers, after dealing with crushing price increases and recession fears over the past 2 years, are adopting a sunnier outlook. A measure of consumer sentiment for the University of Michigan released Friday rose 14% to a 5-month high in December from the previous month as households brought down their expectations for inflation next year. Many economists now say the economy will likely cruise to a so-called soft landing in which inflation returns to the Fed's target without a recession. Inflation keeps coming down, the labor market keeps getting back into balance, and it's so far so good, said Jerome Powell in a press conference following the central bank's December meeting. We kind of assumed that we would get harder from here, but so far it hasn't, says Jerome Powell. All right, we'll keep an eye on that for sure. But, there are many problems economically in this country. U.S. homelessness jumped 12% in 2023. That's amazing. Now, this is probably an underestimated number, but they've been keeping these numbers, since about 2007. And this is the worst that it's ever been, the homeless problem. They believe that there are, across this nation, 653,000 individuals who are without homes, living on the streets. And that would be the high, up 12%. Now, why is that? Well, they say there are many contributing factors, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Drug crisis, fentanyl, where's that coming from? The surge in illegal immigrants, where's that coming from? I wonder who's responsible for that. Rising house costs because of interest rates being so high, and expiring COVID-8. The data showed a 12% spike since 2022. In 1 year, 12% more people are homeless. Before this, the largest increase ever experienced was something like 2.7%. I do think it's a problem, and I think it's a lot of it is something. Obviously we see homeless camps, and we see that here in Nashville and downtown Nashville for sure, and that's a problem. But I'll tell you something I noticed the other day, and I was when I go to take Cabana Wife out to run her shopping runs, and I drive Miss Cabana Wife. And that, like driving Miss Daisy, I drive her around, and I way down in the parking lot so that we can make short shrift of it, and I can swing by and pick her up, and then we keep going because she can't buy groceries at just one store. She has to buy her groceries at like 5 or 6 different stores.
You get the deals, special deals at each store, so you got to be the smart shopper. You just don't understand these things, Brian. It's very complicated.
I never had to go to more than one grocery store ever in my life, but we go to like 3, 4, 5 different stores. So I drop her off at Walmart, and then what I do is I pull off somewhere out in the middle of the parking lot, and I sit and wait until she calls me, and I know that I need to go by the door and pick her up. And I was sitting there, I noticed this car that was next to me just filled with filled from the floor to the roof line with stuff. And it became very clear to me by looking at this that there was a person living in that car. Somebody was living in that car, and I thought, well, that's really sad that somebody has to live in their car. But if you don't know it, Walmart, it has a sort of a policy that if you need to be somewhere overnight, for example, if you got a trailer or a motorhome or something like that, and you need to pull over somewhere and get some sleep, you can always go to a Walmart parking lot, and they have a policy of allowing that to happen at night. I've done it. I had in my trailer. I've pulled into a Walmart parking lot when I got too tired to drive. I just pulled into a Walmart and went to sleep for a few hours. Worked. It was great. But I guess that there are other people who take advantage of that because they don't have a home. And so they drive their cars, and they're in the parking lot at the Walmart, and they're living. And as I came around the corner, I spotted another one. There were several people in that parking lot who were living in their cars. In Mount Juliet, you don't think about that being a place where you have a homeless problem. So, I really believe this is probably true. There are people who just found themselves unable to make ends meet, and they, one reason or another, they got in during this tough economy, they got behind, and they say that you're only a couple of paychecks away, most people, from being, homeless. And I think that probably it's probably true that we are seeing, some of it not as obvious as you might think, because it's not in a homeless camp. It's just a car parked over across the parking lot. That person is living in that car. How sad during this holidays that is the case, but it is the case. Then there's this to bring a little sort of other viewed way to look at this is that the Chicago Fed says that Biden's economic numbers, that wages haven't kept up. This is Chicago Fed president. Wages haven't kept up, and grocery and gas prices still have a big impact. So there are all alternative views out there. 33 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Good evening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got clouds down to 51 degrees now. The full forecast and the latest traffic are again on the way. A shooting on Briley Parkway today led to the detainment of a man accused of firing shots. However, after further investigation, that man was the shootee, not the shooter on the roadway, according to Metro Nashville Police. Fortunately, he wasn't hit. However, Metro says that while initial witness reports were well-intentioned, it was determined that the man driving the gold Toyota Camry is the victim of the shooting incident. He told police he got into an argument with another guy who began shooting at him from another vehicle. Thankfully, no one was struck or injured in this particular incident. At this time, they don't have anybody in custody, and nobody's been charged as of yet. Here is Dave Packer. He's got our closing money news report for the week.
From ABC News, Wall Street Now. Indexes were mixed at the close of trading Friday. The Dow was down 18 points, the Nasdaq gained 29 points, and the S&P 500 up almost 8 points. The Commerce Department announced consumer prices dipped 0.1% from October to November, and a hopeful sign inflation is easing. It was the biggest one-month drop since April 2020 and could clear the way for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates in the new year. Drug maker Bristol Myers Squibb announced it's acquiring biopharmaceutical company Karuna Therapeutics in a $14 billion deal. Karuna has developed a new experimental antipsychotic CAR-XT that's being reviewed by the FDA as a treatment for schizophrenia in adults. The Biden administration announced a proposal for billions of dollars in tax credits to hydrogen producers, part of an effort to build a clean alternative fuel industry. U.S. airlines are predicting a good holiday season after hiring thousands of pilots, flight attendants, and other workers in a bid to avoid delays and cancellations that plagued holiday travel last year.
That is the latest news. We've got traffic and weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
That's right, rocking around the Christmas tree. That's what I'm going to be doing. Starting about 20 minutes from now. Listen, the last few minutes of the last show for me of 2023, and we'll be back right after the new year. Matt Murphy's going to be filling in, and I thank him for that in advance. And y'all have a great Christmas. Today, Senator Mark Pody, Tennessee State Senator Mark Pody, good guy. Very good to be on the program today on short notice. He held a press conference today to talk about an idea that I think is a great idea. He's pushing forward this idea through the state legislature in January. I think it's going to sail through. And the idea is to bring some security to the classroom. And the idea is to use some really amazing technology that already exists and will be sort of upgraded and adapted for use here in Tennessee that will make the classroom safer and actually bring some, I think, some discipline to the classroom. Here is Senator Mark Pody from earlier this afternoon here on Super Talk 99.7. Okay, so you're concerned about what happened at Covenant, but you're also concerned about these continual problems that seem to be cropping up in the classroom in some places, behavioral problems with students and teachers getting assaulted, and you've come up with what I think is a technological, brilliant idea that could help, in situations like that. Talk a little bit about your proposal and what will happen, hopefully, when the state legislature takes this up next year.
Absolutely. And this is not something just because of the Covenant shooting. We have actually started working on this beforehand, and it was focused on supporting our teachers and helping protect our teachers. So we were trying to come up with a way that we could help our teachers with behavioral problems in the classroom and discipline problems. And if a teacher is just focused on one or two students, they can't spend their time teaching. And sometimes the administration wasn't responding to remove that student or so forth, or when they were talking with the parents would end up saying, that wasn't my child, or my child wouldn't do that. So we started with the program of how can we support our teachers with this. And during this investigation, what we were doing, the Covenant shooting came, and we thought as long as we were going to do something that way, what could we do to be a lot more comprehensive to get a better program for teachers in general, students in general, and school safety. So we came up with this program that the technology is out there, but it wasn't in a form that it could all be combined into something that would work. And if we were to look at the lanyards, that's what the teachers have on their necks with their ID. It's got their name on it, the picture, what classroom, what school, and so forth. And we wanted to put 3 buttons on that lanyard. And the first button was going to be in an incident where there might be a child and that child is acting up or some behavioral issues, and the teacher would hit a button and it would instantly go to the SRO officer, that's the officer in the school, as well as the principal. And that way there's people that could come and be of assistance to that teacher. And it also give proof because it would now be recording what's going on with that student. So
now,
they would
let me stop you there. When you say recorded, is that just audio or will it also be video?
It'll be video. And if you remember something like the Ring doorbell, where you can actually see and interact with what's going on,
right,
that's what it'll be. So it'll be being recorded, audio and video, so everybody will know, as far as the principal and the teacher, of what's happening. It's not public. It's just for that principal and the teacher to have it to review later on. But if the teacher needed help.
Before you go any further, I think that's brilliant because, I mean, what you often have teachers saying is, this happened, and it's your word against the student's word. But with this, you will have not only video evidence, but you'll also have 2 witnesses instantly to what happened.
That's exactly right. And I think that's going to give our teachers a lot more support because there are laws that say if a child acts up, here's what's supposed to happen to that child if they go to another alternative school or whatever, but it's going to be proof that if there's a disciplinary action, those parents will know it, and it's clear, and the right steps will go on. We're supporting our teachers here.
All right, so tell me about the second button.
All right, so the second button is going to go directly to the SRO officer as well as the principal and 911. So if there's a medical emergency or there's a fire and you've got to reach out to 911, nobody has to go find the fire alarm. Nobody has to go find their phone. They hit that button and it's instantly going to 911. And there again, if it's going to be dispatched, they'll know. They can talk to the teacher if it's medical or fire, but they're instantly notified that we have an emergency on. The principal knows, the SRO officer knows, and the school nurse would know at the same time.
Well, that's remarkable. Okay, now, we hope we never have to hit the third button, but there is a third button.
Yes. Now, the third button is going to go directly to law enforcement at the same time, so it'll hit everybody else, but law enforcement, and if you're in law enforcement and you can see exactly what's going on in that classroom and you can identify that's the shooter, that's the type of gun, that's what that shooter looks like, that's what they're wearing, and it's real-time information, the law enforcement will just see exactly what's going on. It's also going to have a GPS on that lanyard, and that GPS is going to say to the policeman and law enforcement, is it in the cafeteria? Is it in the classroom? Is it in the recess? Wherever they are in school grounds, the law enforcement will know exactly what they're dealing with at real time. It's just like their Ring doorbell, real-time information going to law enforcement.
Well, I think this is a marvelous thing. So, I mean, does this technology exist right now? It's on the shelf, ready to be purchased, or does it still need to be developed?
No, it is developed. It is purchased. In fact, there's some schools in Florida, and it was based on the Alyssa law, and that they have something similar to this now. And there's other states going along with this. New York just passed something, as did Florida. So we're not the first state doing it. Now, we're the first one that's having it, as many things on this device as possible. And it's also totally optional for a teacher. If a teacher doesn't want to hit the button, there's nothing recorded. There's nothing going on that the teacher doesn't want. The teacher's in full control. If they want to hit the button 1, 2, or 3, it's totally up to them.
Wow, this is an interesting thing. Now, are there any concerns about privacy? I mean, couldn't imagine that there would be, but I mean, have they had to deal with any of that in places where something like this has been tried?
They haven't yet, and if we were going to be recording all the time or recording without anybody knowing it, there could be some privacy issues. But we're doing it when there is the teacher in that position saying, I am declaring I need help of some sort right now. So they're calling out for help, and they're calling with the right button to get the right people coming immediately to help and support them. So we don't think that that's any kind of issue whatsoever. And we haven't heard any pushback on it. In fact, Brian, there's nobody that's been against this kind of legislation at this point. We've met with the governor's office, and it's going to be coming through the school funding grant budget, and we believe that's going to be renewed, and the teachers are actually school systems will be able to apply for it from there.
So some state money will be available for grants. Is this a pretty expensive system? It would seem like all that technology might be pretty expensive.
And, if you look at, there's something called like Life Alert where it says, help, I've fallen, and you hit a button.
I've
a lot of those
and I
are available.
can't get up. Right, I got you, huh?
All right. And they're like $12 a month, okay? Well, this is going to be less than $25 a month, and it does everything. So to put that on the net of a teacher, so they have that at less than $25 a month, I think that's an incredible value to help our safety, to help our support our teachers, and I think that that's a very good value for us to go. And I'm hoping with free market and competition, they can even bring down that cost more.
Well, it's a new thing, and usually as things go forward, they become less expensive. So that's an interesting idea. Listen, I love the idea. As a parent, I learned very quickly that if you have one kid, just the behavioral stuff, you got one kid in the classroom who's acting up, and the parents don't want to acknowledge that there's a real problem there. You have the evidence to show this is exactly what happened, and this is not acceptable. There's proof. There's no doubt about what happened because you'll have the video to show that. But I mean, one kid can stop the other 25 or 30 kids in the classroom from learning anything because the disruption it just interferes with the learning process. I love this idea.
And Brian, you hit it exactly right, because this is going to give the teachers the ability to hold those kids accountable and hold the parents accountable, saying this was your child and this is the actions that they did in my classroom. And here's the evidence of what happened.
Listen, I think it's brilliant. I really do. So tell me a little bit about what will happen from the legislative standpoint. You filed the bill, but you won't consider it until January. How soon could this technology be in a classroom, I guess is what I'm asking.
So we believe that we will be able to have this passed and hopefully signed by the governor. We believe that maybe by March 1st. And the way that it's worded, there's actually money available in the existing grant program. There's still some money left, and they could use that to start putting it as schools apply for that money. So it could still be early next year that this is available and in classrooms.
All right. Well, listen, I think it's a fabulous idea. You know, what you say it really wasn't the Covenant School thing. You were working on it before then, but it certainly does answer a lot of questions about what can we do. People say, we've got this problem. What can we do to try to increase response times, to make our kids more safe? This seems to check a lot of boxes.
Yes. So the second and third button were exactly because of the Covenant situation that happened here. So because it all came, we're dealing with it right now. We wanted to do everything that we possibly could to make schools as safe as we could right now.
Well, this is fabulous, and I hope that you'll come back and let me know how things are going. But you've heard nothing from anyone. I mean, you never know, what a parents group is going to come up with. But I mean, I can't imagine a parent wouldn't be in favor of this. You've heard nobody raising any objections to the idea so far.
There was only one person that brought something and asked if there was going to be training available for it, and that's going to be up to the school system as they're picking the vendor that they want to do this, to make sure there's training involved for the teachers. But there's only 3 buttons, and we've got very intelligent teachers. They'll be able to decide which button to hit depending on the circumstance.
I think this is a great idea, and our thanks to Senator Mark Pody for coming by today to talk about it, and we'll keep you abreast of what happens with the state legislature as we move forward. It is now 53 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you're in the market for a pole barn, the 2 brothers that run Stoltzco are the 2 guys you need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind, and that is the Stoltzco difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool or work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They do not scrimp on quality. They will not cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So do me a favor. Go to their website, stoltzco.com. I'll spell that for you. STOLTZCO.com. Stoltzco.com. Take a look at some of the things they have done for other people, and you'll rapidly see what I'm talking about. This is not your grandpappy's pole barn. Then call them at 615-622-5992. Stoltzco, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. That's Stoltzco.com.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund. You don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that, is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.